when you bumped the camera, it moved a little bit. I'm going to make a quick camera adjustment. Everybody say hi to YouTube.
Hi, YouTube.
Hey, YouTube. What's up?
Hey, YouTube.
And we're super sorry, YouTube, if you saw our social media post that happened maybe 15 minutes ago about how we're going to go live really soon. And then we've been sitting here fucking off. We're really, I mean, we're not sorry, but we're kind of sorry. That's the biggest complaint from Heather Barkley, by the way.
Yeah, I know. She commented last time. Did you see that?
Yes.
She was like, I'm fucking waiting. She didn't say fucking.
It drives her nuts.
Well, she can make that into a drinking game too, right?
Right.
Like for
There's
every,
all kinds of
every
this list
minute
sucks
or
drinking
whatever
games.
that we don't go on right away. That,
For every 5 minutes, take a shot.
yeah.
I mean, or a drink. Yeah, probably. Actually,
Some nights
don't
that
take
could
a
be
shot.
terrible, dude.
Yeah, don't take a shot. Like,
some nights we're like, we're going on, and like an hour and a half later, we're like,
we're back.
all right, here we go.
All right.
This list sucks. This list sucks. It sucks.
Hey, everybody.
Thought it'd be good to do a dramatic fade in with the theme song there this week.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I mean, every other week we typically play it at full volume.
Yeah, right away.
In, but we were like, fuck that. Like,
Got to mix it up, right? Can't
Star
keep 'em
Wars
guessing.
style. Like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Exactly. Yep. Welcome back to This List Sucks. I'm JB,
I'm Mike.
and it's a very special week. It's another quadcast.
It's another quadcast.
Quadcast round 2.
We didn't even bill it as a quadcast, which I feel bad because I almost feel like we're shortchanging this week's quadcast guests. But listen, quadcasting is just, it gets wild.
Yeah.
It gets wild.
But
So,
yeah, you're right. We didn't bill it as that. We didn't really advertise that.
no.
So,
But surprise.
surprise quadcast. We have special guests tonight. Returning special guest, April Leonard,
Oh,
Hello again, April.
glad to be here.
who again found out last week that she was going to be on.
You know what, though? That's
She
some
should have
bullshit.
assumed.
I mean, especially because she was part of our live studio audience for the inaugural quadcast.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I mean, she probably should have known, right?
Seems logical. Yeah.
Should I have known?
Because you've been talking about Rush, I don't know, since we started doing the podcast.
Won't stop talking about it, actually.
Whatever. Although, to be fair, you told me before the podcast started. So at least I didn't find out
That's
during
true.
the podcast this time.
And I kind of spoiled it. I feel like I fucked up a little bit.
How?
Well, because normally we tell April that she's going to be on the podcast.
On the podcast.
On the podcast.
That's
yeah.
her preferred method of invitation, historically.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of feel like I fucked up a little bit.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll make sure next time it doesn't happen.
Yeah, we'll make sure that there's absolutely no advance notice next time.
That's right. Yeah.
Just the way I like it. Thanks, guys.
But then, in addition to April Leonard,
That's right. Mr. Ben Williams.
Mr. Ben Williams.
That's my father.
JB
And he's sitting
Dad
right
is
here
here.
to my right
I drove 30 hours
to get here.
to be here tonight. So thanks.
So fantastic. We wouldn't have it any other way. We're so happy that 30 hours to make it here.
I'm honored.
Ooh.
I mean,
Listen,
one can hope.
Be careful what you fucking wish for. All right. Like, let's be super honest, because some nights I go to bed and I don't feel like I go to bed particularly early, but some nights I go to bed at 10 or 10:30 at night. I fucking wake up at 4:45 and there's like 25 mixed text messages. This dumb bastard, he goes to work on a Saturday morning or on a Sunday
morning. Yeah.
and he'll be at work for 6 or 7 hours, jumping from here, lesson to lesson, and the rest of us morons, what's the best? 3?
I
Have
think
we
it-
gotten into the 300s?
I don't think it was a 3, but one time, like they just kept popping up again and again and again. I couldn't check them because I was in the middle of lessons, and I'm just like, God damn it! I turn off the do not disturb on, and I think it was 263 is what I think it was messages from these assholes.
Be careful what you wish for.
Okay, never
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah, fair warning.
Be careful what you wish for.
That's right.
But it is a Friday night. Super excited to be back. Did you do anything new this week?
Yeah, I did a couple things actually.
Fuck.
Usually it's not me.
I know.
you're the
Usually
guy.
it's me, not you. So what'd you get?
In terms of new music,
Yeah.
Dinosaur Jr. released a new album today.
Wow.
I got to see if I can. I'm going to pull it up just so I can figure out what the name of the album is. Sweep It Into Space is the name of the album. Okay. I listened to the first couple tracks,
Okay.
but I was intrigued because it was produced by Kurt Vile. You remember Kurt Vile?
Yes.
Yeah.
War on Drugs.
Yeah. And he has a whole pretty prolific solo career, actually.
Yes.
I listened to the first couple tracks, only like I said, but the first track, honestly, it sounded like Wilco, but like with way more distortion. Is kind of what I got. And then the second one, it was called like I Met the Rolling Stones or something like that. I don't know what it probably based on a story, I assume, but
you would hope.
The mix was super weird, but it was kind of cool. It was like all the instrumentation was like lo-fi, which Mike hates. But it was like reverby and muffled almost, but then the vocals were right out front, like perfect sounding. So it was an interesting combination. But I do plan on going back to listen to the rest of that just because I do like Kurt Vile.
Did you reference the name of that record?
I did, yeah. What do you have it up?
Yeah, Swept Into Space.
Yeah, I did. I think I said that, but
yeah, I apologize if you did.
So I listened to that, and then
you didn't do any of the Little Yachty?
No, I didn't.
My bad.
Do that.
Lil.
Did you say little?
Yeah,
that's like blasphemy, dude.
I fucked up. I fucked up bad on that.
Our now mutual friend Sean Smith, Lynchpin Barbershop, Indiana, Iowa.
Yeah.
He got me listening to Dopapod this week. Do you ever listen to those guys?
Fuck yeah.
So
because of Sean Smith.
We've been talking about it a little bit, and he sent me a couple of their records, and I listened to Never, Odd, or Even. Familiar with that album at all?
Yeah.
And I feel bad. I was like looking at my conversation with him. I sent him just like, I was on a walk, I was taking my dog on a walk, listening to this record. I was like sending him message after message. And then I was like, oh, sorry for the live feed, by the way, because he was probably cutting somebody's hair or something at the time. But my favorite on that was, this is why I'm looking at the message, is Faba, which is like a 15-minute instrumental track.
Yeah.
You ever listen to those guys?
I have heard them several times. Saw them once too.
Did you really?
Dopapod one time?
Yeah. No, not I'm sorry. No, not Dopapod.
You were thinking about Dinosaur Jr.?
Yeah, Dinosaur Jr.
Oh yeah. You saw Dinosaur Jr.?
I did.
That's pretty cool. Where'd you see them?
In Fresno.
Ooh.
Fuck yeah.
Murder capital of the world for a while.
More murders per capita than any other city in the entire world. It's a great place to visit.
Shout out Fresno. Shout out Fresno.
Right. Yeah.
One of the most violent concerts that I ever went to was a Slipknot show in Fresno, where they carted out 3 fucking people with leg injuries. And Corey Taylor from Slipknot literally came out and said, guys, the fire marshal just came and talked with us. If we have to stop the show one more time to cart one of you fucking people out of here, they're shutting down the show. So please, we love you. But calm the fuck down. This is awesome. Not good. Yeah. And they did calm the fuck down.
What year was that?
I was in the Marine Corps 1997, maybe 1998. They had only had the self-titled album out, and it was raw as fuck, dude. It was a great show. I mean, like that's kind of what I was into at the time. So
it was Iowa, or was it?
No, the self-titled.
Was that before Iowa?
It was before Iowa.
Was that the one that was recorded? My dad, for a little while, owned a recording studio. It was in Urbandale, Iowa, and Slipknot recorded one of their records there, right?
Yeah.
Which one did they do?
I think it was the Iowa.
Yeah, it might have been Iowa, which would have been right after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it was called Two Rivers, and then we changed the name.
Yeah,
when we took over, but we didn't have it very long.
It was a cool spot. I remember fond memories.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So shout out to Rex Todd, because Eric Church, who released an album last week, he released Heart last week, he released Soul this week.
What?
Yes.
He released 2 records?
He released 2 records. It was basically a double record that he broke up and he released week after week. And
Heart and Soul.
Yeah. So if you're into Eric Church, which Rex, I love you, but I'm not into Eric Church. I'm really sorry. But if you're Rex. Into Eric Church, yeah, like that's out there. So you can go and check that out. And this is not new music, but this is something that I cannot tell you how excited I was. I got an email this morning, which prompted me to walk down to Marv's because there was a release on vinyl that I got really, really excited about.
Ooh.
And I hope that Ryan Renicky is watching on YouTube because he was watching last week. He desperately wanted to call in, but I told him no. He was not allowed to call in because of the condition that he was in, begging to call in at that point during the show. Plus, there was already all four of us on the podcast. It was kind of a nightmare. This week will not be that way. Last week was a nightmare. Only because I got attacked because I thought that Freebird has about 2 fucking minutes of extra guitar solo.
Should we start talking shit to him again about that?
Let's not bring that up.
Want to join?
At any rate, I got an email about a release on vinyl that I've never seen these albums on vinyl before. And so it prompted me to walk down to Marv's to see if they had them, which they didn't. But they did order them and they're going to get them within the next couple of days. And the guys down at Marv's are going to pull them off to the side and stick them down. So that way I can buy them after I get back from Texas. Because I'm going down to Texas next week.
What are they?
Pantera is releasing all of their studio albums on vinyl.
Holy shit.
So Cowboys from Hell, they're doing like a special, it's like a purple platter for Cowboys from Hell. Vulgar Display of Power is going to be a gray and black vinyl. Far Beyond Driven is going to be a blue vinyl. The Great Southern Trendkill is going to be an orange vinyl. And then Reinventing the Steel is going to be a red vinyl. And I really don't give a fuck about much of those with the exception of Vulgar Display of Power and Far Beyond Driven.
Cowboys from Hell?
Listen, if they have a copy of Cowboys from Hell, I'll pick it up. But at the end of the day, Vulgar Display of Power and Far Beyond Driven might be 2 of my most favorite metal albums ever, particularly Vulgar Display of Power.
What's on that one?
Mouth for War, Walk, Fucking Hostile, By Demons Be Driven is on that record as well. I mean, that fucking record, Attack the Radical, No Good is on there. It's so good. It's literally peak Pantera, right? So you get the best Vinnie Paul, the best Dimebag solos, in my opinion. And Far Beyond Driven is also really, really good. Far Beyond Driven has Strength Beyond Strength. It has 5 Minutes Alone on it. It's got 25 Years, Shedding Skin. Come on. It's so good.
You like Pantera?
So
I do like Pantera. Yep.
You got to be in the mood, though, right?
Exactly.
You got to be in the mood.
Not something you're going to put on Sunday morning, but
no.
In the right time.
In the right time.
It's awesome.
In the right mindset. And particularly Dimebag Darrell, rest in peace, Dimebag.
Yeah.
He had such a unique sound. He was the first guy outside of Zakk Wylde to really do what I would consider just phenomenal work with pinch harmonics, right? Like Dimebag did all kinds of crazy pinch harmonics, not as good as Zakk Wylde.
And the dude went out doing what he loved to do.
Yeah,
Amen.
that's true.
Super fucking sad story. Like super sad story. And his brother was the drummer of Pantera, Vinnie Paul. And Vinnie only died like a few years ago. Vinnie died of a heart attack, not fucking getting shot on stage. Like
On fucking
Dimebag
stage. Yeah. One of those has to be on the
Mike,
list.
The last 2 minutes are awesome on Freebird. I'm just going to say that right now. I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Fuck yeah. I like that we're revisiting that.
I do too. Listen, I'm willing. I'm gonna fucking die on this hill. I'm totally okay with dying on this hill.
You're
Fuck
already dead on that.
You're smelling dead, man.
I know.
Dead
It's okay.
right now.
It's all right. It's all right.
Do you think that there's a Pantera one on the list?
No. Fuck no.
You don't think so?
No. We would have seen it. I
Maybe.
think that this list is going to dramatically underrepresent metal. Especially metal like Pantera. Listen, the Black Album, yeah.
How many genres can be unrepresented though? Because I mean, country has 11 albums, right? And I feel like we don't remember. I didn't remember reading anything about metal being. Did you read anything about metal being unrepresented? Maybe you read something I didn't see.
No, I've never read a specific article talking about the snubs from metal, but I'm just trying to be as realistic as possible. I mean, you're gonna get Black Sabbath.
Certainly, you're gonna get some Metallica.
Yep.
I don't know, man. I would be surprised. I'm hopeful that there's one Pantera.
There's where Where does
coming
it fall?
up soon, probably. But like that's the thing is we're running out of spots for albums like that.
For something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that, especially Pantera kind of fell into this really weird space where it wasn't thrash, it was this weird combination of like thrash metal and groove metal, because they were the first guys that really just created these like weird, thick, power chord driven grooves.
Yeah.
That you just wanted to beat people up whenever you heard
Certainly
it. Right?
An influence though on a lot of bands that came afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see. Probably not though. But the realization is that 500 is really not that many.
Correct.
Yeah.
Especially when you start to try to think about representing genres the way that we're talking about, you're inevitably going to get kind of massive underrepresentation in certain genres, and metal is going to be one of those genres. Which
honestly, not specifically with metal, but not to get too off topic and delay starting our albums too much, but I'm okay with that, really. Like, my opinion is I don't want to be inclusive genre wise. Like, the list should be the best 500 albums.
It should be the best.
And if that's, again, if that's all one fucking genre, which I don't think it is, but I mean, like, I'm against omitting albums that are the best for an album that is from a different genre that's underrepresented.
But how do you pick the 500 best albums? I mean, in whose opinion, right? Because everyone's going to come up with different people on that list. I guarantee you my 500 would look nothing like that Rolling Stone.
Amen. 500. Because even if you said, even if you're talking about this with representation, right? Plenty of punk representation. We just did the Ramones last week. Clear fucking punk, right? I'm sure
the Clash is on there, right?
Yes. There's got to be. I would think that we're in for at least a couple of Clash albums.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen them yet. And we're doing 380 through 376 this week, which, by the way, that takes us to a chunk of 25.
Ooh, coming up.
Yep.
Recap. Yeah.
Yep. Recap at the end of the show. But, I think about something like Black Flag, which I know that you loved Black Flag.
Fuck yeah.
But if it were my list of 500, and if I could take Vulgar Display of Power or Cowboys from Hell and plug that in to give metal a little bit more representation, or I would have a hard time doing that knowing that there's no Tool albums on this record.
Well, there's plenty of other things to omit before we take Black Flag off.
Yeah,
though,
absolutely.
Right?
if there's no Tool on the list, I'm sorry.
Right,
It's not a list. It sucks. The list truly sucks.
My dad has really fallen in love with Tool in the last couple of years.
Listen, Enema and Lateralis. Like, the idea that neither of those albums appear on this list is fucking criminal, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's crazy.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely crazy that neither one of those albums appear on this list.
Yeah, one should definitely be on there. Probably Enema, if you ask me.
There's no prog rock either. I mean,
there's like two. There's like two.
Is there Jethro? Is Jethro Tull on this
Probably.
list?
Probably.
Aqualung has to be on there.
Aqualung, I'm assuming we're going to run into Aqualung probably sooner rather than later with Aqualung.
Yeah, I bet you they don't put it in the top 100 or anything.
But the snub of King Crimson in the Court of the Crimson King is beyond mind-boggling.
Yeah, it doesn't make any fucking
I just
sense.
saw those guys live in 2018 for the third time, and
Wow.
that show is absolutely amazing.
Phenomenal.
If you haven't been, you got to go to a King Crimson show. It was amazing.
I'm in.
But in terms of like, how do you make a list of the 500? Like, one thing that I've talked about a lot is impact versus content, right? Those are, my opinion, the two reasons for a record to be on the list. For content, you can't, because it's totally subjective. But with impact, you can, I think. With impact, you can kind of make a list of the best 500. But that's the thing, is that's not the only factor. You got the content factor. So it's a hard one. Yeah. Should we start?
Let's do it.
Okay, guys, for those who are just jumping in here for some strange reason, we are going through the Rolling Stones list of the top 500 albums of all time, and we are picking it back up at number 380 today, which is Charles Mingus, from 1959. Charles Mingus filtered the vibrancy and romance of his hero Duke Ellington's big band orchestrations into hard-driving bop, leading his own band through a torrid, gospel-inspired rave up, in parentheses, Better Get It in Your Soul, a sly protest song, parenthetically, Fables of Phoebus, aimed at Arkansas's segregationist governor, and a mournful elegy, parenthetically, Goodbye Pork Hat, dedicated to tenor Great Lester Young. Is the place to hear why Mingus deserves a place in any survey of America's greatest composers, regardless of genre. What do you guys think of Charles Mingus?
Starting me.
Go.
Go for it.
So I was really excited that there was a jazz album the week that you invited me on. There were a lot of songs I really liked on this record. Goodbye Pork Cat, what you mentioned, I gave 3 stars, and then Bird Calls too is one of my favorite. But like I have to say there were like 2 that I just really didn't like.
Which one?
Starting it off with that.
Self Portrait in 3 Colors, an Open Letter to Duke. I don't know. I don't know what you guys think. So I don't know. Like overall, this was a really great record, and I enjoyed it a whole lot. But
I did too.
What do you guys think?
I really loved. Sorry, you go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, so I put stars next to every one of these songs.
I did too.
And every single one of these songs got at least. Fuck. Okay, so there were only 2 songs that I didn't give 3 stars to. One of them was Self Portrait in 3 Colors. All right.
See, I liked that one. There was like a really good sax double melody, but that was a 2-star run for me too.
Yeah. The only other one was Jelly Roll. And Jelly Roll was cool. I loved the trombone work. Fuck, the trombone fucking smashed in that song so hard. But relative to everything else,
Jelly Roll is the only one that I don't have any stars on. Like I have stars on every song except for Jelly Roll.
Wow.
And Charles Mingus played trombone too.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Did he play it on that track?
I don't know if he played on that track, but he played piano, bass, cello, and trombone. Those were his
interesting.
instruments.
Yeah. And bass, for those unaware, bass was his primary, and that's what he played mostly on this record was bass.
Yeah.
Stand-up bass.
I think there was 1 or 2 tracks that he played piano
on 1 or 2. Yeah.
But the real key to me here is that most of the jazz that you get from this time frame, right, which is 1959, I believe is when this. Well,
59.
So from 59, most of the stuff that you get in jazz, you're talking about trios and quartets, right? Where the band leader is either a sax player in the form of John Coltrane, or you got Miles Davis playing the trumpet. One of the things that I absolutely adored about this and that I was so impressed with is you're talking about an 8-piece ensemble here. And there are so many songs that they've got on here where they've got tight syncopated lines.
That's all due to the songwriting and the arranging, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it was very good.
But how they were able to record that, and just the absolute cohesion that you got between all of the saxes, the trombones, and the rhythm section and all this. And oh, by the way, over half of this album was recorded in a day.
Yeah, 1 fucking day.
Which is crazy, right? I mean, that's like these guys, they hit this studio fucking hot, smoking hot, and they were able to put down stuff in an unbelievably fast time.
Yeah.
And God, man alive, it was tight.
I liked every song on this album.
I did too.
I really did. And there were a couple. Goodbye Pork Pie Hat was one of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Self-Portrait. I mean, I could just imagine the smoky bar.
Yeah, I kind of wrote down the exact same thing. I was like,
dancing with your partner, right?
Yeah.
Just, slow dancing, having fun. I mean, I just saw it in my mind when I was hearing those songs.
That's what I wrote for the Pork Hat one.
that's exactly what I wrote on Pork Pie Hat. I wrote, it makes me wish I was in a dimly lit, smoke-filled jazz club.
With a cocktail, I wrote.
Gotta have one of those.
Jelly Roll for me was really the only kind of, just civilian. You know what I mean? It was good. It was okay.
I thought that one felt kind of circusy almost.
Yeah, exactly.
I wrote that too.
It was just kind of casual, These guys are going in there and improvising. That's what they're doing. That's why they recorded that album in a day, right? This was the start of jam music. Jazz is. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's what it is.
Now, the other crazy part that I read about this was, and I don't know that I wrote down the producer's name, but most of these tracks were edited. Did you read that?
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember reading that.
Which I think is crazy because when you listen to them, this does no part of this sounds edited. And I know that they did a subsequent release of this album where they removed the edits and they basically gave you the songs as they were recorded in their full gusto, if you will. I haven't listened to it.
I didn't either.
I'm going to though.
Yeah, hell
Because the way that they edited these songs, it's completely, you can't tell that there's any editing whatsoever. At least to my ear, I couldn't hear it at all. And so the fact that they edited out part of these songs to basically fit it onto a vinyl is why they edited it.
Right.
I
feel like maybe if they pointed it out, they're like, hey, at minute 3:48, we edited it and we like really tried to listen. You probably could hear it, but I didn't notice that at all, listening to it either. So
not at all.
Yeah. I think both of us have pretty solid ears. I can't speak for you guys. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Something else that I love though, and they did this a lot, and I'm sure that this is a convention of Mingus himself. But so first of all, I want to say this: the two standouts for me were Boogie Stop Shuffle. I fucking loved Boogie Stop Shuffle, and I also really, really loved Open Letter to Duke. I mean, I
did too.
Those were the two standouts to me, but consistent throughout this, particularly to the rhythm section. And a live member of the studio audience is a bass player. One of the things that I absolutely adored was the double time feel for 1 or 2 measures, and then they would go back to like a stop time.
There was lots of timing changes on that. Yeah.
I loved that, right? And it's not even a timing change though, right? It's a feel.
It's a feel
all
change.
They're doing.
Yeah, it's like a cut time to a common time situation. Yeah.
Bingo. And it just gives you this, oh shit, is this changing? And they would do it just long enough to be like, yeah. And then they would drop it right back to the standard cut time.
Yeah.
And I loved it. Man, I loved it.
April, you mentioned Goodbye Pork Pie Hat. Was there did you by chance notice any kind of melody that sounded familiar there?
I didn't write anything down.
Because I was like, for some reason, in the sax line on that song, hearing "While My Guitar Gently Weeps" by the Beatles.
Oh, I didn't notice that. That's my favorite.
Go
Beatles
back
song,
to it and listen to it, and just see if you. Maybe I'm fucking crazy. Probably am.
This was an album that even if you say I don't like jazz, it's just not my thing. You have to respect the level of musicianship.
Yeah,
that this album contained. I mean, this man is a genius, and he had a bunch of genius musicians with him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, even for the songs I don't like, they were just a little too dissonant for my taste, but I can still appreciate that they were really good songs.
Yeah.
And there was another thing you didn't like about the record, wasn't there? Should we go there?
All right. So I love the upright bass. It's one of the things I mentioned on I called out on Bird Calls. The bass line was awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm not a huge fan of upright bass solos. I just I just don't know what to do with them. Like, they're not that melodic. I don't know. Is it rhythmic? Like, it loses the energy to me. I'm sorry.
We're looking at the bass player.
We're looking at the bass player
on YouTube.
The resident bass player that's standing behind April.
I
love the bass. I mean,
Kevin, put that knife away. No. Listen, here's my take on stand-up bass solos.
Yeah.
Because bad solos are bad solos, right? And there's plenty of bad solos that happen. One of the things that I think is unique, particularly with stand-up bass, when you're talking about a solo, is it's not just about the notes that are being played. Does that make sense? So if you think about a trumpet solo, if you think about a sax solo, those instruments don't necessarily lend themselves to anything other than the notes that they produce.
Yeah, melody.
Right.
Yep.
The bass is different though, because you can get the way that a bass player strikes the note. You can almost get, it's almost a percussive sound and a percussive feel to a solo.
Yeah,
and I think that there's a lot, like, I think that he's doing a lot of that in here.
Yeah.
That as a, like, listen, I grew up playing jazz bass, right? And so there's a certain part of this that for me, I love it. And even a bad upright bass solo, I would probably say I love it because the guy tried.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to admit that.
I agree. I like that it has a rhythmic element to it as well, but it's just not something that I enjoy listening to.
Maybe you just don't like the requirement of having that rhythm, because that's the thing is like with the bass, it is required. I mean, like a saxophone or a trumpet or even a guitar for that matter, it's all just like frosting on top of the cake. Like a lot of people don't realize, they think like the drums are the timing, but really it's not. The bass is really keeping the time.
Absolutely.
The drums are like secondary, in my opinion, to that. Obviously, they're a huge part of keeping time. Don't get me wrong.
They work together.
But the bass is the primary element in terms of like the feel of it. Like the bass player is the one that, and the drummer too. But I mean, the bass player more so can just change the feel of a song in an instant, you know. And the thing about that is when you're playing a bass solo, you have to simultaneously support the rhythm, and so it kind of lends itself to a weird sound, you know.
Maybe. I mean, like for bird calls, I feel like if the bass was just playing the bass line and all the other instruments dropped out, I feel like I would have loved it. You know, but just, I'm sorry, guys. It's my opinion. Not going to change.
That's
my
okay.
mind.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah.
Listen, you're good.
Wow,
You're good.
I was totally expecting you guys to all jump down my throat like you've been doing lately.
I mean, this is definitely your last time on the podcast. You know. I'm just kidding, April. Of course, you're welcome back.
Okay, so did you? None of us had heard this before, correct?
Nope.
I had heard Charles Mingus, but not a whole album of Charles Mingus. You know, more just like a track or two. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty much new to all of us.
I adored it.
Yeah, I loved it.
Loved it.
I haven't bought it on vinyl yet, but I'm going to.
I didn't add
Even
it to
if-
digital, but I would do it on vinyl for sure, and that'd be the preferred. You know, I'm not gonna like listen to this a whole lot on digital. I don't know. Are you?
I did actually add it
Did
to
you?
digital. Yeah, I did, just because this is a record that I went back to multiple times after I listened to it to take notes on.
Yeah.
I went back to it at least 3 different times. Now, I didn't give it like the full listen the second time that I went back to it, but I did use it as I loved it as background music.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
fantastic for that. That's why I think it'd be great on vinyl.
On
to
vinyl.
just have, you know, when you have some people over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like I was using it at work, right? And I don't have a record player in my office, so I could.
Why not?
I just haven't got there yet. Just fucking patience, young Jedi. I do want to say this though, Charles Mingus. I don't think that it's not without stating that as a human being, he was a fucking terrible human being.
he got Duke Ellington fired his ass because of his temper. So yeah, he had a problem. I think.
There was a trombone player, and I didn't write down his name. But there was a trombone player that he got pissed off at while they were recording.
It was
Punch.
Juan.
Thank you.
I'm spacing on his last name.
Fucking
but
punch
I think
the-
was it Juan Zamora?
I didn't read anything about this.
That sounds right. He punched him in his fucking face,
Yep.
broke his jaw, and basically ruined the guy's career because
Jesus.
it permanently destroyed his embouchure, which prevented him from playing the upper register on the trombone, which is a jazz trombone player. If you don't have the upper register, you're fucked.
You ain't got shit.
Um,
That's terrible though.
and again, it's not to take anything away from this album. This album's fantastic, but at the same time, you know, he was kind of a fucking human dumpster fire.
Sounds
Right,
like it.
because it wasn't just like what he was doing with other jazz players, which why the fuck would you do that to another professional? But you know, there was women involved in his life that he was known throughout jazz circles everywhere to have a temper that you did not want to cross. And he was
Gotcha.
a pretty big dude, a pretty imposing dude. And yeah, I mean, it's a little bit fucked up, right? I
Definitely.
mean, it doesn't, I mean, I don't want to go without saying that because
And it happens in music, unfortunately.
Right.
You know, you attach
Musicians are not
yourself.
perfection.
Musicians attach themselves emotionally to the music,
yeah.
and if they feel something's not going right, you're right. There's an emotional response.
Yeah, and that shit gets dark.
I remember
Yeah.
one time
Got
when
dark with Charles
my
Mingus.
drummer knocked the shit out of my guitar player at a gig that was packed out, and we had to go back in and say, "Hey, sorry guys, we can't play anymore." So yeah, it sucks,
That
but it
sucks.
happens.
Yeah.
We should read Rex's thoughts before we move on.
Please.
So I'll do that. So here's Rex Todd on Mingus. Some sweet jazz to wash out the bad taste of the past 10 or so albums. I'm looking at you, T Swizzle, and disco albums.
Fuck you, Rex.
This album is lively, playful, and incredible to listen to. You hear each section, horns, drums, piano, and they crescendo and decrescendo well into one another. This is some good stuff. Invite some friends over, pop the cork on a bottle of wine. This is some great music to have going in the background at a dinner party. Yeah.
Amen.
It's a similar thing. That
Rex, I don't know you, but I like you.
Yeah. He's absolutely right.
Rex was a guest on the podcast a while ago, and I'm sure he'll be another one.
He'll be back. He'll be back.
Mike, while you read the next album, I'm going to step out very quickly. Be right
Already?
back. Yeah.
This
I'm
might be
already
a
there.
record.
I know.
This might be a record. This is a record for JB going to the bathroom early. All right. Next up, 379 from 1981, Rush's album, Moving Pictures. Rolling Stone says, on 70s albums like 2112 and Hemispheres, Rush mastered the high prog epic. Moving Pictures was a record where they proved they could say as much in 4 minutes as they previously had in 20. Songs like Tom Sawyer, Limelight, and The Police like Vital Signs showcase the trio's superhuman chops in a radio-ready framework. While more adventurous tracks like the Morse code-inspired instrumental YYZ and the synth-heavy suite The Camera Eye found them tastefully streamlining their wildest ideas, said Geddy Lee, quote, "We learned it's not so easy to write something simple," end quote. So, I know that we started with you last time, April, but the whole reason why we brought you on this week is because you're wearing a Rush shirt representing the crew. You're a huge Rush fan. So why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, I love this album. Tom Sawyer, I think, is the reason I got into Rush. It's like a song I heard on the radio on the way to work, and it was like nothing I had ever heard before. There's no other song like Tom Sawyer, I don't think. And it just, normally I listen to what I listen to, and that's that. And, I can listen to one album by an artist and I'm good. But when I heard Tom Sawyer, it's like, I have to hear more from this band.
So how old were you the first time you heard Tom Sawyer?
I was in my 30s, early 30s.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
And I mean, one thing I love about Rush is like, they're 3 people, right?
Yeah.
But the amount of music they make, I mean, there could be like 6 people.
It's a super full sound for a 3-piece, right?
And even like the simple songs like Limelight, I feel like, that's a really straightforward song, but like the drumming makes it something special. I don't know. I love
Every
it.
instrument on Limelight. That's one of my favorite tracks.
Yeah.
Just gonna jump in.
Limelight might be my favorite Rush song, period.
It's up there for me too. And it's always been a dream of mine to cover that with a band at some point. And
the lyrical content of Limelight is astoundingly beautiful.
Yeah.
Like the concept, and that's the one thing that I think to me Rush does so good relative to other bands is Rush is prog rock, right? This is some of the little bit of representation that we get in prog rock on this entire list is with this album, particularly with Rush. This is absolutely their most accessible album that you would still call prog rock.
And Limelight's maybe one of their most accessible songs, but I'm cool with it.
Probably the most.
Yeah.
But I love the storytelling that's taking place. And this is not a concept album by any stretch of the imagination, but Rush tells stories in the songs that they create.
And you said it's not a concept album. It's funny because the next song references a lyric from Limelight. Did you know that? Caught in the camera eye is from Limelight. Yep. And then the next song is called The Camera Eye. Yeah. So, but it's not a concept album for sure. That's just one little concept element of it. And did you know that's one thing, like through reading about this album this week, I didn't realize that Neil Peart wrote all the lyrics. Did you know that?
What?
The drummer wrote all the fucking lyrics for every song. I'm pretty sure.
I think he does that for most of the albums.
I didn't know that. Yeah. I didn't know that until this week.
I did not know. I never know. Fuck no, I did not know that.
Isn't that crazy? Like, how often do you have a drummer writing all the lyrics?
Writing lyrics? Almost never.
The last Rush album, he wrote all the lyrics, but then he wrote a companion book to go with the album.
To go with the lyrics? Fucking Neil Peart. Rest in peace.
Yeah, sure.
An absolute wizard. The one thing that stood out to me, particularly to Neil Peart on this album, is you rarely get a drummer that plays the melody on the drums. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And
No,
Neil
definitely.
Peart does it. Like Neil Peart does it throughout this entire record. It's not just about keeping the rhythm. Fuck that. Neil Peart is part of the melody in my mind. And I heard it in my ear. I hear it in my ear every time I listen to this album. This is my favorite Rush album.
I feel similarly about Rush as I do to Fish, which is that every single member of this band is just as imperatively necessary as the last.
Absolutely.
Like you can't have a Rush. There's a reason that Rush is not going to fucking tour without Neil Peart.
Yeah.
There's a reason that Rush is done at this point, which is that you cannot, there are other bands where you can be like, okay, well, we'll bring this guy in to play the drums.
Yeah,
we'll bring this guy in to play drums instead of Neil Peart on this next Rush tour. Fuck you. No one's going to go to that. Fuck that shit. And also, it says something to, like, for me, because I'm a guitar player and I'm a guitar nerd, that in my opinion, the least impressive, and this is not meant disparagingly at all.
You're right.
But the least impressive member of this band is Alex Lifeson, and he's fucking fantastic. Like there's I have so many good things to say about Alex Lifeson.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that in a negative way at all, but like Geddy Lee and Neil Peart, I mean, you know what I mean? It's hard to top that. So
What'd you think, Ben?
Well, I love this album, first of all. And I got to tell you, when I first heard Fly By Night, we're over at my friend's house and he's like, dude, you got to hear this band. And so I'm listening to this band and I'm like, I want to reach through the speaker and tear that motherfucker's vocal cords out. I hated it.
Really?
His vocals. Yeah.
It's
Really?
fair.
And
I
I
mean,
thought,
people don't like
okay,
his vocals.
I don't know. But then in like 84 maybe or 85, I saw them live. And first of all, live, it's much more engaging, his vocals, than it is. But I saw him playing one bass rhythm on his bass and another completely different rhythm on a floor synthesizer.
while he's singing at the same
While
time.
he's
singing.
And I was like,
Fucking
okay,
Geddy Lee.
wait a minute. Hold on.
Geddy
I
Lee
mean,
is like
it
one of the
was
greatest
awesome.
musicians of all time, I would have to say.
He's got 4 brains, right?
Yeah.
And he's also a great keyboard player too.
Mhm.
People don't talk about that too much, but that guy's a good keyboard player.
He's got at least 4 brains because he's doing keyboard work, that floor synth that you're talking about, the bass work, and then what he's doing vocally.
Right.
And he fucking does them all seamlessly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's completely astounding to me. And it's funny that because I think of the song Fly By Night and I love Geddy Lee's voice,
I do too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
but I
Oh, my friend loved him too. Believe me. He was like, what? You're full of shit, dude.
the thing that stood out to me most on this album, listening to it with good headphones, the bass tone that Geddy gets out of that fucking Rickenbacker that he plays, it's so unique.
Yeah.
Because it almost sounds distorted, but it's
It is.
not.
Well, a lot of it is overdriven though. Like,
Is
and
it?
that's something that I wrote down somewhere. Some songs I was like,
So is
I
he-
gotta find
so is
what
he
I
using-
wrote.
Is he using some type of an overdrive that he's running it through? Is that what you're telling me?
I'm pretty sure there's definitely an overdrive pedal in use.
I
at
don't
some
think
point.
there is.
It's either that or just tube overdrive. But it's definitely overdriven at some point. And especially like the first song I noticed that on was Red Barchetta.
Red Barchetta. Yeah.
And I wrote down, I hope Mike's disdain for bass overdrive doesn't extend to Geddy.
Oh, I fucking loved it, dude.
Good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like I really loved it. And that tone, like the same tone that stood out to you in Red Barchetta, it's there everywhere. It's
Yeah.
there through the whole album. And there's something just so special about that to me. Particularly, like it stands out to me in YYZ because you get all of that syncopation between the bass guitar and Neil Peart, right? And that to me is the best example of Neil Peart playing the melody because he's absolutely playing the melody
And
with
it comes
a
through.
fucking drum, dude. With drums,
It comes through so well on an instrumental tune like YYZ, you know?
without question.
It was so amazing at live shows too to see his drum solo. That was
Oh, yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. Awesome. You're right.
And on YYZ,
Makes me sad. I never got a chance to see Rush, and I'm just
Yeah.
fucking apoplectic about it. at
On
this
YYZ, I was like, the bass playing is, I wrote down the bass playing is downright fucking nuts here.
I
It's
know.
like, does he has to be playing with a pick? You know,
No.
because some of those runs were so fucking fast. And I was like, I Googled it and he never played with a pick.
Never.
But there's like theories about his technique and that apparently he has some gnarly fingernails on his right hand. And there's some, because he gets like this plucky tone. And there's some theories about, he's not like very open about it, I guess, but like he has some technique with his fingernails on his right hand.
where
So-
he's potentially almost picking, but with his fingernails.
You know
Listen-
what else I liked about this album in particular, and I think most Rush albums, is when they went on most of these songs, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am, when they went into the guitar solos, it's not like, you know, when other 3-piece bands record and the guitar player will put a bunch of rhythm tracks on the
Thank
back
you.
of the solo, right?
It's fucking
And
gone,
here,
dude.
it's Neil Peart, it's Geddy
And
Lee,
Getty.
and it's Alex Lifeson playing the leads, and
That's
that's
right.
what it was.
That's
and
right.
That's what it should be.
That's right.
Because
I
that's
think-
the way you're going to hear.
Holy
it live.
shit.
That's
yeah.
right.
And there was something I was trying to identify that was like different about the way Alex Lifeson plays guitar. And maybe that's fucking it, that he doesn't put some kind of shitty rhythm behind it.
Correct.
And the other thing is he has this way of playing over odd time signatures. It's almost like he pretends they don't exist. He's like, like honestly, he's like, oh, it's a 7/4. I'm just gonna play in 4/4. And then like it like every like some number of bars, it
catches
It
up.
yeah.
matches up.
and just like whatever melody he was like conceiving in the moment worked out. You know, at that it's crazy to me. Like soloing over 7/4 is a difficult thing to do.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
like listening to
Yeah.
him do it on Tom Sawyer, like even the very first fucking song, that solo, just listen to that. And he's like, yeah, I don't even know how to describe it. He's doing something.
This afternoon, I was writing a brief, and so I was listening to Robin Trower, right?
Mhm.
Love Robin Trower.
Yep.
Bridge of Sighs, love that album. But I just noticed that on every lead break, he was putting rhythm
behind it.
or another
That's right.
guitar of some kind.
That's right.
And I was thinking about, you know, these guys didn't do that.
Rush
shit,
never
right?
did that.
Yeah.
That's an interest. Yeah, you're totally right about that. Like maybe they occasionally would have a Getty playing some kind of keyboard behind it, but never guitar. And it's so much better for it. Yeah.
One more story from me about this band in particular. I was playing a gig here in Des Moines in downtown. It was a street gig, and JB had a band that was opening for Truth Be Told, my band, and they did a Rush song that night. And I just finally realized, look, dude, you got to give this kid your guitar and your amp because he can fucking play it way better than you can. So I literally switched to acoustic in the band and gave him my PRS and my 66 Fender.
He did. I still have those.
yeah.
Is that how you
I
got
still
your
use
PRS?
those. Yeah, that's the PRS in the basement that you've seen.
It's
I
a fucking
think
beautiful guitar.
that was probably
Ben, that's a beautiful guitar.
It is. Yeah. That was my dream guitar and I gave it to my son. So that
Well
should
done.
tell you how impressed I was
I
that
was just
night.
gonna say, well done.
I think
Well
that was
done.
probably Tom Sawyer that we were playing actually.
Oh, can you
Yep.
play that on Saturday?
No, not with that band.
Not with that band.
Well, just because we haven't practiced it. You know, you can't just be like, hey, you guys know Tom Sawyer, right? Let's do it. You know, it's like you got to kind of know Tom Sawyer, you know, and
Especially the drummer, please.
get a little bit of practice on it, you know,
Yeah.
run through it once before at least.
So, I'm assuming that there wasn't a single song on this record that anybody disliked, right? If
Not
we're going
me,
if we're
yeah.
going by star system, every song gets a star,
This
right?
is a pretty heavy star record for me. Tom
But
Sawyer has
do you
5.
think that this album was on the right place on the list?
So this is a
I want okay.
source. All right. Do you
Okay.
want to get to this a bit later or what?
Well, I mean, we're going there, right? We're going there. But before we get there,
Mhm.
if anybody that's unfamiliar with Rush, and this is kind of where I'm going, because there's going to be some people that aren't familiar with Rush. What song's your favorite? Like, where do you direct people that they've never heard Rush before in their life? They've never heard Moving Pictures. Where do you point them to? What's the song on this record that you think is what's the best song on the record?
Limelight.
Limelight or Tom Sawyer?
Tom Sawyer.
I'm Limelight.
Yeah, I think either one would be good.
I gave Tom Sawyer 4 stars because fucking And it's funny because I've heard Tom Sawyer a million times, right? And every time I think to myself, yeah, I know Tom Sawyer. When you play Tom Sawyer, you're like, fuck. You just can't stop, right? It's so good. But lyrically speaking, and again, we're not lyrics guys.
But Limelight, you love
But
them.
God damn it. Like everything about Limelight is like, it is so human. Like Limelight to me is a song that any human that has lived a day on this planet can connect to what Neil Peart apparently put down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so remarkably beautiful. The idea that they're conveying with the, we're all.
I think a lot of the lyrics on the record, like, and again, you're right. We're not usually lyrics guys, but the song "Witch Hunt" actually had some lyrics I really like too.
Yep.
And I'm going to read the last verse of "Witch Hunt." "Witch Hunt." The last verse is quick to judge, quick to anger, slow to understand. Ignorance and prejudice and fear walk hand in hand.
God damn.
And I
it.
love that. I was like,
I do too.
it just kind of sums up a thought I've had a lot. Like
I know.
Yeah.
But like,
I
so
know.
I mean, don't cut the lyrics of Tom Sawyer short either. So
Exit the warrior.
well, so I guess maybe you guys know production manager. Your listeners know that production manager Justin is from the Philadelphia area, and yet we lived in Delaware before we moved out here. And during our move, it was a really stressful time. They shut down our department. We're working in Delaware. Like 300 people got laid off, and we needed to make the decision of, do we leave Delaware, our family, our house, our friends, to move out to this place where we don't know anyone? And, obviously we made the decision to move out here, but it was a really tough time. And I would say like the lyric from Tom Sawyer, like really helped me put things in perspective. And the lyric is, he knows changes aren't permanent, but change is. And
and the way that Getty sings that line, because there's like so much emotion behind that particular line with Getty.
Changes. Yeah.
Just fucking really so wonderful. And that's like, I feel like there's lines like that in Limelight too, that I like. Oh
yeah, I don't know.
Big hug around my heart. I love it so much.
That lyric just really, it helped put a really difficult time in perspective.
Well, selfishly, I'm glad you guys.
That's a
I'm
good
glad you
story,
guys
though.
made that decision.
I know, I am too.
It worked
I'm so
out
glad
for
that you
us.
guys are out here. Okay, so now let's jump into where you're at, because I've already had this as part of my digital catalog. I feel almost ashamed that I have not bought this on
I don't have it on
vinyl
vinyl
yet.
either. I was
It's
thinking
gonna happen.
I have Exit Stage left on vinyl. Oh shit, sorry. And I have one other one, but I can't remember what it is. It's Not Moving Pictures, and I need to obtain
gonna
this
get
as soon as possible. Yeah.
That's it. It will get rectified for me as well. But in terms of list placement, where stand you?
Is there more
it's
rush on the list?
379. There's no way there's more rush.
There's
on
no
this.
rush on the list. So this is my problem. I understand why Rolling Stone picked this record, but for me, if there's only one Rush album, it's not this one. It's 2112. And what I would ideally like to see, this album where it is, and 2112 about 100 spots higher.
I get that. Yeah, I think that's a good assessment.
So I feel
that's the prog rock disc, though, right?
Big time.
That's no different than in the Court of the Crimson King.
And honestly, I hate to say it, but I would feel stronger about putting one Rush record and In the Court of the Crimson King on the list than I would about putting two Rush records.
So if it's one Rush record, I think it has to be. For me, I get why Rolling Stone, it has Tom Sawyer, it has Limelight.
The accessibility. The accessibility with this album is far greater than 2112, right?
Agreed. But for me,
listen, and I'm not disagreeing with you. 2112 is fucking magical. I mean, it's so good, but the accessibility of it is why I get that they chose this album. Even within the context of choosing this album, though, everything that's on here and the way that this album like speaks to me, for lack of a better phrase, this album is at least 80 too low. Like, I would like to see this album closer to 300.
I'm with you on this one. Yeah, I think it's way too low. Personally.
I think we're all going to agree on that. You could tell me anywhere between 80 and 180 higher, and I would be like, yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so you're between
300 and 200, I guess I would say. Somewhere in there.
I'm right around 300.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it.
You're specifically, you don't want to see it too much higher.
I mean,
than that.
plus or minus 25 of 300. So if you called it 275, I'd say, yeah. You know, if you called it 325, 325 might even be probably 275 to 300. Like 300 to me is the baseline for this record, because this record is, man, it's fucking special. Like it has enough of those pure prog rock elements in songs like YYZ that YYZ, like, fuck off. That's never a radio hit. That is just.
But they do play it on the radio. That's the thing. That's like one of those songs that like you're like, this would never be played on the radio, and it fucking is.
And
like
it was nominated for a Grammy.
YYZ was?
Yep.
Jesus.
Look it up.
Amen, Grammys. Fucking good on the Grammys.
Usually I don't feel that way, but yeah.
I know, but good on them.
But
so
yeah.
It's gotta move up. It's a really, really classic. It's a fucking classic, wonderful record, and it's super accessible too.
Yeah, this is a raise up record for sure.
Can I read Rex?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, so Jesus, poor Rex. We've already shit on him about Eric Church, and now we're going to end up reading Rush. Okay, so he says, one of the few bands. Oh God,
I'm reading it too.
One of the few bands I cannot stand to listen to, and I have my reasons.
Fuck, Rex.
My college roommate had a 5-disc changer. He would load up all 5 slots with one artist and hit play and let it go for weeks straight. Rush was one of those artists. Pink Floyd, Cooper, and Jethro Tull. I can't stand to even head those bands' names.
Read
I'm sorry. Yeah, I can't stand to even read. No,
he wrote head, but he meant raid.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Listen, dude, I was staying true to what he said.
No, you were. I was
staying true to what he read.
Maybe he was thinking about head.
Well, he did say college roommate. So
college roommates. That seems reasonable. Okay. I cannot even stand to read those bands' names without rolling my eyes. Don't judge me. Too late, Rex. We just judged the shit out of you.
Yeah, we're judging you, dude. Right now.
I'll try to make it through this one. I'm always taking one for this goddamn team.
We appreciate it.
A little too much bass at times.
What?
Wrong. Would like to hear a little bit more lead on this album. I understand where he's coming from.
I do too, because there's not like a ton of guitar solos. There's a couple, but it's not every song by any means.
This is a 3-piece. And let's be real. Alex Lifeson is number 3.
Certainly.
Mm-hmm.
He's the fucking third fiddle in Rush to controversial Geddy, Neil, Alex. Am I wrong?
I'm there with you.
But without Neil, there's no songs, right?
Listen, you can call me wrong.
Wait a minute. Without Alex Lifeson, there's no Rush. Let's face it. That guy's guitar playing made this band.
Yeah, but I'm right there with Mike too. I think
Geddy,
you don't have to throw
Neil,
it away. I think
Alex.
He's right. I think it's Geddy, Neil, Alex. And I think that, again, it's just for fun, because like you're right.
It is
like
just for fun.
They're all impaired. They all have to be there, but
it's a 3-legged stool.
Yeah.
The stool falls without any of them.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why, as JD said earlier, they're not going to tour without Neil Peart, right?
But just for fun,
Geddy,
Neil, Alex.
Alex. Listen, we'll debate that later.
Yeah.
A little too much bass at times. Would like to hear a little more of the lead on this album. I'm not trying to be a dick, just my opinion. You're a dick. Just
quit being a dick, Rex.
Decent jams at time, not a bad album. Closer to 400. Listen, everybody has their own opinions, and they all smell like assholes.
Especially Rex is here. I'm just kidding, Rex. We love you, dude.
All right.
That was a joke.
I love it. Yeah, we should move on.
Okay. Coming in at 378, we have Run DMC, self-titled Run DMC. The Hollis Queens crew kicked off the golden age of hip-hop with their debut, the first great rap album built to blast out of boomboxes on city streets. Before us, rap records were corny. Jam Master Jay said, everything was soft. Nobody made no hard beat records. Run DMC changed that with the b-boy bravado of sucker MCs, the metal guitar of Rockbox, and the political realism of Hard Times. As they boast, just snap your fingers and clap your hands. Our DJ's better than all these bands. Run DMC, guys. You guys kick it off. What'd you guys think? Who wants to go first?
Me again. Go first for all of them. Okay. So yeah, I had almost no experience with rap music prior to this, like a little bit of Beastie Boys.
That's why I thought you'd be a good one to start, because
I was
uninitiated.
I was actually a little nervous about this one going into it because I had no frame of reference, right? But I really liked it. I had a lot of fun with it. I thought some of the songs were fun and silly, but then other ones had like a good message to them. It I think had an undeniably 80s feel to it, which I really like. I mean, you didn't even need to look what year this album was made to know that it was made in the 80s.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's you're right. Undeniable.
Yeah, it was so fun for me. And, some songs in particular I liked were Rockbox. I gave that one multiple stars.
What did you like about Rockbox?
I liked the bells and the guitar and the backing music. It was fun.
What the fuck did you not like about Rockbox?
No, I was just curious about her opinion. I didn't love Rockbox though. I mean,
what?
It's hair metal hip hop.
It was fun. I don't know.
God damn it! Are you kidding me?
Did you read much about that one? Did you realize what inspired that? Anything?
No.
So they were literally. This is funny. So they were waiting to get into the studio. And this heavy metal band called Riot was recording in the studio, and they were like waiting for this band to finish recording before they get in and record for like multiple days, I guess. And they heard this band so much, and they're like, we got to fucking throw some of that shit on our record. And so one of the guys in the band asked one of his buddies who played guitar to come in and just play a bunch of guitar on Rockbox. And that was like, I didn't hate it. But also, I remember reading that Rockbox, like, at first when they finished that track, everybody in Run DMC was like, this is not good.
Yeah,
they were like, this isn't working at all. And then so they recorded another version of it, and they released both. And this version ended up being way successful. And despite what they thought was going to happen.
It was one of those things that I read a quote from DMC where he said literally, like, he was in Queens, and one of his buddies was like, fuck, dude, that track is hot. And he was like,
wait, are you sure?
Like, really? Like, you like that? And he was like, fuck yeah, I like that. And then it was like, well, shit, all right, I guess we got to do this.
But I mean, I think it's fine. I don't know how much it works for me. It's a little disparate, but it's okay.
I liked it. And the other one I liked a lot was 30 Days. I thought it was really funny. And like the music reminded me of, I always feel like somebody's watching me.
For sure.
Like I listened to that song probably like 15 times this week because it was stuck in my head.
Send me back in 30 days. Yeah, I like that one too. Going back to Rockbox though, there's like a glockenspiel part at the end of that. Did you guys notice that?
I didn't write
Did that sounds just like the safety dance. It's like dun 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 dun. Seriously, listen to that glockenspiel part and tell me you don't hear safety dance, because you're fucking crazy if you don't. Or maybe you haven't heard safety dance, I guess. That could be an explanation.
Possibly not. How many of these songs did you put stars next to?
How many did I put stars next to personally? Me?
Yeah.
4.
5.
I put stars next to Hard Times. I put stars next to It's Like That. I put 3 stars next to Wake Up and 3 stars next to 30 Days.
Dude, we're so creepy.
Did you do the same thing?
No, I did 4, but totally the different songs.
Songs?
I put the most that I put were 2 stars. I put 2 stars next to Rockbox. I put a star next to Jam Master Jay. I put a song next to Sucker MC's Crush Groove 1, and then I put a song next to Jay's Game.
Holy shit, it's like the exact opposite.
I know.
That is so funny. I love it.
It's ridiculous.
You didn't like Wake Up?
That song was kind of sad, right?
The snoring
it was
sound?
cool. That was all about the snoring sound all throughout it.
No,
yeah, it's fucking stupid, dude.
Maybe that, yeah. But
Yeah, it was fucking dumb.
But the rest, it was a solid message.
But
and
no,
it was like,
sad. It's like, I'm dreaming of this world that's so good and perfect and wonderful, but I woke up. It's not
But
really
I gotta
like
wake
that.
up.
yeah.
Now, granted,
I think that was me snoring as I was listening to this album.
There were some funny lyrics on that one though. Like, it was cool to chill in foreign places. I loved that one.
there was a lot of that.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a fucking lot. Of
You
that.
missed the description, Mike. What I loved so much was Jam Master Jay said, before us, rap records were corny.
Because there was nothing corny about this.
Not at all. Nothing corny going on here whatsoever. Yeah.
I will say this. It's fun to listen to really old school rap that, I mean, they wanted this album to be commercially successful. And there was no fucking way that they were going to make a commercially successful rap album that had niggas and bitches and dope and fucking and everything that we get in rap today, right?
Well, these guys were kind of the pioneers, right? They
Without question.
really paved
and the
the
Sugar Hill
road
Gang.
for a lot of really good rap now.
Absolutely.
And I'm a musician. I respect talent.
I do
right?
too.
And I respect all kinds of music, and these guys certainly earn respect. But for me, I was just not a fan.
I'm desperately hoping that we get Raisin Hell, which was the next release from Run DMC. It was released in 1987.
I wouldn't be surprised. There's a lot of emphasis on this list of hip hop.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'm not upset by that by any. Well, I'm a little bit upset by that. Juvenile can fuck right off with 400 Degrees.
I'm not upset by it either, but some of the choices I'm upset by, namely Juvenile.
Especially,
Fuck
I mean,
that shit.
At this point in time, Juvenile is the one that I think about. I think Juvenile was like 463, 465, something like that. That album has no fucking business being on this list.
And also, if you're
I
gonna
don't even
put
give a shit.
if you're gonna put a heavy emphasis on hip hop and put fucking All Eyes on Me by Tupac in the bottom 100,
right?
that's nuts.
Like 436, I think, was where All Eyes on Me fell.
But again, I'm gonna bring up my boring theory again. It's content versus impact, right?
Yeah.
It is impossible to overstate the impact of this record
Absolutely.
on rap music.
That is
It
a
is
true
fucking
statement.
impossible. This is from 1984. Straight Outta Compton by MWA was 87.
Yeah.
That's 3 years, which in hip hop years is like
That's a
300
lifetime.
years. You know what I mean?
That's a
Especially
lifetime.
in the 80s. Like that's hip hop years. That's a thing for me in the 80s. Like, look at how quickly hip hop moves in the 80s.
Yeah. And think about Beastie Boys' License to Ill, which we're absolutely going to see on this list.
What year was that?
1986.
Yeah, so this is 84, man. This is like, I'm not aware of a whole lot that came before this.
There wasn't.
Yeah, that's the
There
thing.
wasn't. This is a huge pioneering record. And so from that standpoint, I'm good with it being on the list.
Yeah.
What I'm wondering, well, and I'll get this out of the way. I did not add it to digital. And I'm probably not necessarily going to look for this on vinyl. Agree?
Yes.
Disagree?
I'd
It
pick-
deserved to be on the list, but way lower than it showed up on the list, I think.
What do you think, April?
I don't know. I'd pick it up if I saw it like used
On
or
vinyl?
something. Yeah.
Would you?
I mean, it was fun.
I don't know, I'm not going to spend a lot of money
Right.
for the vinyl on this.
Yeah,
but
I'd buy it for $15 or less.
yeah, if it was in the bargain bin, then I would definitely buy it for sure.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I was reading a little bit about this record, and from what I saw is that hip hop, like you were saying, can be divided into the time before this record and in the time after this record.
But honestly, before this record, there wasn't that much. I mean, you got Blondie, you got Sugar Hill Gang. There's really
Blondie.
not that much. Rapture, son. Come the fuck on.
I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about right now, Mike.
You know what I'm talking about, right, Ben?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so Blondie has God damn it. I'm sorry. It was only like 13 years before your birth or something like that. But Blondie was like the first mainstream rap, if you will.
It was kind
she
of
was
rap,
she
right?
was
It was a
fucking
kind of
terrible.
rap,
Debbie
yeah.
Harry was fucking
Yeah,
terrible in
exactly.
Rapture.
She wasn't great at it.
She
no.
tried though. I mean, she tried.
Yeah.
It was like a weird pop kind of.
And it was kind of a popular song. I'm surprised you
was.
don't know that song.
Yeah, I'm
Greg.
surprised you don't know it too.
I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
You'll encounter it.
You guys made this shit up. There's no Blondie rap song. I apologize for these guys.
For me, I'm gonna move this to 450.
Yeah,
Thereabouts, plus or
much
minus.
more appropriate. I
Yeah.
agree.
And
Yeah.
it's not because I don't respect it. Man, I respect the fuck out of this. But
Again, yeah,
at the end of
the impact
day,
is incalculable. But so this is like one that regardless, again, I'm not going to listen. Like, I'm not going to, actually, I don't know if I said that yet. So I shouldn't say again, I'm not going to listen to this a lot. Like, I'm not going to add this to my digital.
No.
Maybe I would do the vinyl. Cause I said, but like just for the collection's sake, but I'm not going to listen to this a whole lot. Cause it's just not that good based on today's standards.
I'm not going to add it to digital. I'm not even going to look for the vinyl. If I were to look for a vinyl, and I really hope that we get to see this later because I think that if we find Raisin Hell, their 1987 release from Run DMC, I think you'll listen to that and you're going to get far more impressive flow.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you think about just the way that Run and DMC are rapping on here, it's kind of slow and plodding, where when you get to Raising Hell a few years later than that, the pace of their flow is way fucking faster.
Yeah.
It's going to be more sophisticated.
That's right.
Right.
It's far more clever
and more mature.
Well, it just goes back to the
more clever. Like everything works so much better on Raisin Hell. And I hope that we see it. I suspect that we're going to see Raisin Hell between 100 and 200, which I'll probably still argue is going to be probably too high for me. Like I'll probably even want to kick that down a little bit too. But when you get to it and when you hear it, it's going to sound so much more like contemporary hip hop. And you're going to make the case of yes, right? Like this is the Neanderthal to the fucking caveman, right? Like this is the next evolutionary step in
that's
hip-hop.
a good way to put it.
That's
and that's what I'm
sense.
talking
Good
about
analogy,
when I say hip hop years, because again, I didn't exactly finish there, but like this album is not that good based on today's standards, but the impact is incalculable. So like it should be on the list for that reason alone. There's few albums. Well, I don't say few, but there's some albums that are on this list, in my opinion, for impact alone. Because the content is outdated at this point. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about this. Like we simply improved upon hip hop, like for sure. It gets way better than what this is. Nobody's like, yeah, this is the real dope shit back in 1984 with Run DMC self-titled. You know what I mean? Like no one's, but like, so we've definitely improved upon it, but the impact of this is incalculable. So for that reason alone, it belongs on the list, but I'm on the same page as you. Let's drop it down a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So maybe I will wait until I hear these other ones before I buy the record. Like I said, this is nearly my only exposure to rap music. So,
and you already want to buy the vinyl. Maybe you're just a hip hop fan and you haven't discovered it yet.
I know you're a closet.
I mean, I don't know that I would like the ones about hoes and whatnot. Like,
wait, listen.
Hoes and whatnot.
I mean, I don't know what
next week. Not next week.
Cocaine and hookers.
Not
Who
next
doesn't
week.
love it? Yeah.
Not next week, but the week after. We have the infamous Mobb Deep. I desperately want you to listen to the whole infamous Mobb Deep.
That'll be both you and me's first time on that.
With Prodigy and Havoc from basically the same part of New York, right? From Queens, New York. You got to listen to that. It's basically a decade later because the infamous Mobb Deep was recorded in 1996. Fucking hip hop changed. And it changed in such a remarkably like fucking dark and gritty and wonderful way. So you should listen to the infamous Mobb Deep.
All
2
right.
weeks.
I'll think about listening to it.
You're gonna listen to a mother-fucker. All right,
Let's move on. Let's do it. Yep.
All right, 377 from 2003's the album Fever to Tell from the Yeah. Rolling Stone says these New York art punk brats blew away the doldrums of the early 2000s with a true rock and roll goddess in Karen O. She knew how to work her sneer like a pair of ripped fishnets, trashing any room in sight. Yet the tender ballad Maps became a surprise hit with Karen pleading, "Wait, they don't love you like I love you," over Nick Zenner's warped guitar fuzz and Brian Chase's drum thunder. Quote, "There's a lot of love in that song," she said, "but there's a lot of fear too." What did you guys think about the AAS?
You know what? Actually,
Don't all start at once.
well, I wasn't. Yeah, I like it more than I thought I was going to. I will say that.
Did you like the repetition of words? That was
You mean
my
with-
favorite part.
with the band name.
One of the things I wrote down here.
I don't feel particularly strongly about that.
One of the things I wrote down was the simplicity of the lyrics. And
Thank you.
for me, not in a good way.
Thank you.
Is that what Mike was talking about? Yeah.
Thank you.
I was fucking with you, Mike, as I'm apt to do.
April, we talked about this a little bit before the podcast, and I'm not gonna steal your thunder because I know that you really, really enjoyed this. And I'm not a fucking lyrics guy, but did not every song repeat at least one word 30 fucking times?
Tick, 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 tick.
Yeah, for sure.
Rich.
Rich. Yeah, no, you're right. Now that you point that out.
Tick, 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 tick. Fucking god damn it.
And you
It
don't
was
like that, is what you're
fucking
saying. Just to
every
be clear.
song,
Yeah.
dude. Fuck.
No, yeah, you're totally right. You're
On,
totally
now-
right.
on Black Tongue, I have to say, and again, not really my thing. Wasn't a big fan, but I wrote the vocalist is annoying AF.
I actually liked her. I gotta say, I kind of
She
liked her
was driving me
stylings.
crazy.
But
I was not a fan of Karen O. Now, the guitar player had some great tones on some of these songs, and the riffs were awesome.
He did a lot of weird shit too, right?
Yeah.
Like there was
Yeah.
a lot of if you think about Rich, that's like all harmonics.
Harmonics.
How the fuck does like
So
But
was
all
that
the
even a
press-
guitar?
All
Yes.
the press
Are you
is about
sure of that? Because like I thought it was a synth.
No,
So I wrote, is
that's a
that
guitar?
I wrote, is that
running
harmonics thing a guitar or a synth? And then I wrote, has to be a synth.
No, that's a guitar playing nothing but that melody line in harmonics.
Well, it sounds good. Whatever
It's
he
cool.
did there. I liked his style a lot. He did a lot of octave riffs.
Yep.
Almost every riff was octave based, which
Yep.
is cool. But I gotta say, I liked the vocal stylings. I didn't necessarily love the lyrics, like the repetitiveness of it. You know, that's a mark against it for me. But I liked her vocal stylings. Her like that she gets into.
Okay.
I actually dig that
Yeah.
stuff. I
Okay.
gotta say.
I hated the lyrics were so they were stupid
yes.
in so many cases, and we'll end up talking about Maps. The lyrics largely on this album are stupid, but I love the way that Karen O sings them. Like her voice gets me because she does do this and it's almost like I don't even know how to say it. It's like a come hithery type of you know,
Mhm.
But
and
it's just a little too over the top.
no, but I'm into it.
It's super
Like,
overt, you know.
It is. It's way over the top,
Yeah.
but I'm into it. And the reason why I'm into it is even Rolling Stone, right? They talk about like this idea of art punk, right?
Yeah.
That's what that is. It's like this artistic flair into what would be a punk sound if you didn't have that influence. And I love it. But in the absence of any type of fucking meat to the lyrics, it becomes just like,
And that's you're
Ugh.
exactly right about that.
Yeah.
Like
it becomes hard.
when you just said the absence of any meat. Okay.
Yeah.
So like I was listening to Tick And my thoughts on that were like, I'm really loving the vocal stylings. There's just like energy pouring out of her. But then I wrote, not really a ton of substance to this song.
It doesn't make sense.
Like there's really nothing to it once you really break it down. Like she just like played a couple chords and said like tick 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 over and over again. And like maybe she has a lot of energy, and that's like what she did on that song is great for a live show, in my opinion.
Yes.
Like take the songs that are actually already good of their own accord and do that with them in the live shows. But that's not a song necessarily. You know what I mean?
Well, on Tick, I said, Karen O is starting to annoy me. And then on the next song, when I said, okay, annoying as fuck. Sorry.
Round 2 for me. I'll be right back.
I like this album, I have to say. And it's okay. It's okay like that. You guys don't. It's just a difference of opinion. But yeah, it reminded me a lot of White Stripes, I think.
I love that actually.
And I liked her voice a lot. I like the distortion that like they had for the first
on her vocals too.
Yeah.
A ton of fucking distortion.
I liked that. I liked the effect. I thought I wrote in several of them that I liked her voice. I put that it might be like too lo-fi distorted sounding for you. It's one of the notes.
And actually, so it wasn't. Okay. And I actually really enjoyed it. But again, like what the most difficult part for me and what I really want to know from you is, did you ever think about the lyrical content?
No.
Okay. And that's fair.
I'm, like in my kitchen cooking and like I just hear this energy.
You can do it.
I want to go to her show. I want to see her show. I want to see her play live. It just had so much energy. It was so much fun.
And I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly, because I made comment after comment on all these songs about the energy, because the energy is there, and it's the way that her vocals work, because this is a 3-piece. This is a drum, this is a guitar, this is her, which is really unique. Yeah. Right? Like you don't get a lot.
Instrumentation was cool.
You don't get a lot of drum, guitar, vocal 3-pieces where all of the pieces fit really well together.
And the production on this album was great.
It's fantastic, right? Yeah. So from all of those standpoints, I understand why somebody would argue for this to be at 377. But as a person that's like viewing this more critically, right? Because I'm going through, and as I've done with every other of the 123 albums that I'd gone through before this, I'm reading the lyrics and I'm trying to discern if this thing is musically shitty, are they saying something to me lyrically that should compensate for the fact that I might not like the music all that well?
And it's not doing that.
Well, it did the opposite.
It made it worse.
It turned on me.
Yeah.
Because I love the sound of it. I love the energy. I love what she's doing with her voice, because she does that. Yes. Like she's doing those things that make me just want to like find this woman and like hug her and be like, oh, I love you so much.
So for me, I want to see her live.
Yeah.
Because like I want to see that happen live.
That's
but
what
I don't care that much about it on a live or on a studio record. But
go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, you were talking about it being a 3-piece. To me, this is the Karen O show. You know what I mean? Like the guitar player and the
press
drummer.
I read was about Karen O.
It was too, but come on. Are you selling? I feel like you're selling the guitar at least short.
Yeah.
I don't feel that it was impactful enough to really, like I said, it was mostly like octave riffs and they were pretty repetitive.
The compliment though.
But they were good riffs.
They were good.
And the compliment.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because if you stripped that away and you had a drum and Karen O, you would say, well, Karen O's voice is cool, but it feels like it's missing something.
Yeah.
So the complimentary
but it could be any other guitar player, right? Sorry, you go ahead and finish your thought.
I don't know if that's true, though.
Well,
I think the guitar player fits her voice.
Yeah.
I mean, he really was insane.
Now, could Kirk Hammett have done the same thing? I don't know. Because Kirk Hammett didn't fucking record this record, right?
I apologize for interrupting, though. You said the complimentary nature. You finished that thought there.
The complimentary nature of the way that the guitar worked with her voice. I love it. Like, it works for me. Now, could another individual have done that? maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
All I can judge is what they did. And what they did is with the personnel that they did it with.
Yeah. And not that it wasn't good. I mean, like, I liked the combination. Like I said, a lot of the good octave riffs, but yeah, for me, it was just like they were more supportive,
Of her.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I want to go back to something April said, because she said it right as I was going to the bathroom. She said that the comparison to the White Stripes, which is what I wrote down on probably half of the fucking songs on this album.
I stopped
Really?
writing it and just wrote it in general comments at the end. Because
Exactly.
it was like,
That's what I did too, because
Wow.
I think this is the AES are the female version of the White
Yep,
Stripes.
yep,
Like,
I think
it's
so.
legit.
So instead of,
well-
so if Meg was singing lead on every
If
White
Meg was
Stripes
singing
album,
lead, what I mean by that was the female lead singer version of the White
Mhm.
Stripes, because obviously the White Stripes have a female
Jack.
bass or female drummer, and the AES have the opposite, but
Mhm.
this is basically the White Stripes,
Yep.
but maybe not as good. I gotta say,
yeah.
like maybe the songs aren't quite as catchy, quite as earwormy with these guys, but it's very similar vibes. Maybe a little bit more inventive with the vocal stylings, because she's pretty out there, but she's the female Jack White, is what I wrote.
So for me, I you guys already know that I really like this album, but I struggled with it a little bit because like we were talking a little bit before the show, is that to me, the first 8 tracks are one album, and then the last 9, 10, 11, track 9, 10, 11 are a different album. Like, to me, they don't fit. And, Maps came on, and it just felt like all the other songs before that had such heavy distortion, and Maps came on, and it felt like very, produced and clean and whatnot. It felt really out of place to me. And honestly, like a little boring in comparison to everything else. And
It was the closest thing to a ballad thus far at that point. There was actually another ballad, but
at
that point in the record,
Mhm.
like, everything was super high energy, and
Yeah.
Maps was a bit of a turn.
And the last 3 songs were slower, and they felt out of place to me. And,
Yeah.
Maps I recognized as a radio hit from, whenever this album was first released. And I was a little bit sad that was a radio release, because if one of the other songs were the radio release, I probably would have sought out this band to see live. And I think that they would have put on a good show. But based on Maps, I didn't have that inclination.
if you're only gonna recommend one song for anybody to listen to on this record, what is it? You want to turn somebody on to this record. What are you telling them to listen to?
Black Tongue.
I put Man.
I'd say Black Tongue. Yeah.
I say Maps. But
Interesting choice, because
You
like
have
April was saying, it's
sentimental.
just like, I didn't hate it at all. I didn't feel the same way necessarily
Mhm.
as April did. I liked Maps, but it's not super representative of like what the rest of the album is like.
it's not at all.
Yeah.
It's nothing like what the rest of the record is like.
Yeah.
But I'm also, as we talked about before the broadcast, I'm so deeply emotionally invested in Maps.
In that song specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, specific to that song, like that song speaks to both my wife and I about a time when we were dealing with our oldest child. Like, she was a teenager at the time, and the lyrical content of that song to me is unbelievably powerful. Like, that's the only song on this record
It's a solid lyric.
that I think has any type of meaning.
That's so funny for
Lyrically.
you, because like, and I don't think
never
you're wrong
pay
at all.
attention to
Like, I
lyrics.
think that's a great lyric, but like the fact that like most of the rest of the lyrics you just fucking hate, but
I
this
fucking hate
one
them.
really particularly resonates with you
It
more
does.
so than most other music.
Exactly.
Seemingly, you know
No,
what I mean? Yeah.
it is. It's literally the most contradictory fucking bucket of shit that one could possibly imagine. But at the same time, that is a segment of my life. Does that make sense? Because we've talked with so many guests about like, why does this album or why does this song make sense to you? This is one of those songs that if I were to build a soundtrack to my life, this song holds such a remarkably like important part in the soundtrack of my life. And so from that standpoint, I would tell anybody to go and listen to this song. If you don't connect with it, you're going to find it boring. You're going to find it pedestrian, and you're going to find it remarkably different from the rest of this album. and that's okay.
And just for the
Because
record,
that's what music does,
And
right? Like music speaks to people
in different ways.
in different
absolutely.
ways for different reasons. And man, this song shouts. It just shouts like unbelievable emotion that even today, when I listen to it, I think about specific times. And the funniest part about them is like some of those times are really, really brutal in dealing like with a 16-year-old girl
Mhm.
who's our oldest daughter. But then at the same time, because of the way that like life changes and life grows up, I also think about times that are the literally maybe the happiest times of my life with that same person, with my oldest daughter.
And just for the record, I'm right there with you on that tune. Like, I don't have anywhere near that kind of like genuine of an experience with it or anything, but like I wrote down the lyrics of that one, and that one resonated with me particularly lyrically as well, which is again not as common with me or Mike. You know.
Yeah.
So
yeah, amen. Where do you put this though? I mean, because we're talking about a 377. Like this is fucking high, right?
it's pretty high.
Too high.
This is high.
I think it's way too high. And I wouldn't be pissed if this was removed entirely. But if it's on there, it's got to be the bottom 25 for me.
Yeah, I mean, I liked this album, but I put like I'm confused what to do about this with the list. I would buy this on vinyl and like put it on while I'm cleaning. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I could see like not getting bored by cleaning.
It seems like one of those records that was maybe put on for inclusiveness
Would
sake.
would you buy this on vinyl? Did you add it to digital?
No.
This was already part of my digital catalog. It was
This is one of
primarily
those-
because of maps.
This is one of those, which is it's rare for me, but like where I would include maybe a couple of the songs, but I don't want the whole record
Mm.
in my digital. You know,
I would not. No,
No.
I wouldn't. Yeah.
what's
Not-
your opinion
not my
list
thing.
wise, Mike?
460, I could see.
So you're close to me, but you're a little higher. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in the camp of just fucking boot it entirely because I do think that this record, if nothing else, I want to see Karen O represented on
Well,
this
see,
list.
that's the thought I had. The other thing for me was like,
because this is a Karen O vehicle.
is definitely, you know, and my thoughts that I was having was like, you know what? I don't really want this on the list. But the other thing was like, at the same time, I want every White Stripes record on the list.
Yeah.
So like, that's kind of fucking hypocritical of me. Like maybe for that reason, I should want this on the list. I don't know, you know?
Yeah, I'm okay with it on. I'm okay with it off, but I agree it should be lower. Like I liked it. It was fun, but
I'm glad someone else shared my White Stripes.
it
Thoughts?
was
I
really
get
clear
that
to
Exactly
me.
the fucking same thing, really.
Yeah.
Like listen back to that with that in mind. You'll hear it guaranteed. Her voice sounds exactly like it's like the female version. Like honestly, and it's like neither of them are like she's not like fully female sounding and he's not like fully male sounding.
Mhm.
They're just like kind of in the middle, you know?
Yeah.
Just androgynous. You put them together and you just have the perfect rock and roll voice.
Amen. All right. Let me.
You gonna read Rex?
Yeah.
Is it my turn or you want me to do it?
No, it's mine. I just gotta get it. All right. So Rex Todd says about the AAS, it's an eclectic mix of Art Nouveau and punk got thrown into a blender, and this is what the mixture sounds like. It's the first time I've listened to this album since it came out. I still like this album. Its arrangement is impressive to me. Black Tongue being my favorite track. Still, it has a sexy kind of feel to it. I really like this album. I would put Run DMC ahead of this one, way ahead.
Wow. Well, me and Rex agreed about Black Tongue.
I mean, listen, everybody, right? Because Black Tongue was your standout. Black Tongue was your standout.
I said
Did
man.
you say that?
I
She
said
said
man.
man.
Oh, man.
You said Black Tongue, right?
I did.
You said Black
Ben said
Tongue.
Black
Yeah.
Tongue.
Yep.
All right.
Interesting. Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
you guys ready to move on?
Let's do it. Let's jump in.
376 is Neutral Milk Hotel in the Aeroplane Over the Sea from 1998. The Louisiana band nearly pulled off an indie rock Pet Sounds with their second album, leavening lo-fi guitar racket and twee folk with circusy instruments like the singing saw and zanzithophone. As leader Jeff Magnum cut through the irony of the Seinfeld / Pavement era with his heraldic, surrealistic yammerings about broken homes, Anne Frank, religion, scary sexual awakenings, and other coming-of-age traumas. It's weird, raw, harrowing stuff. If you think you can't be moved by a song called The King of Carrot Flowers Part 2 and 3, hearing is believing.
Has there ever been a more true fucking description?
Yeah, except for maybe the first sentence. Because I like this record more than Pet Sounds.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it right off the fucking bat. And I like Pet Sounds a lot. So,
I love the line, it's weird, raw, harrowing stuff.
there's
'Cause
one
that to
song in
me-
particular that I'm excited to get your guys' opinion on that I really don't even know how to describe. And maybe that kind of sums it up a little tiny bit. So, Neutral Milk Hotel. Were you guys familiar with this record at all? Either of you?
I was not.
You were
And
not familiar with this?
I had dabbled in Neutral Milk Hotel, but I got to tell you, after listening to this album, I'm going to go get every single Neutral Milk Hotel album I can get my hands on. The songwriting on this album, Jeff Mangum, is just amazing. The songwriting was amazing. And
Yeah.
the instrumentation was awesome. The arranging was awesome. It was just a great album. And that's my opinion.
What'd you think, April?
I liked it a lot. We listened to it once driving through Arkansas, but I think it was what?
Lee's not
Okay.
joining for this one,
Oh,
no, but Lee did
sorry.
email us his thoughts.
Yeah.
Sorry, production manager Justin was very concerned because we did mention last week that potentially Lee Stamper was going to be joining us via phone for this conversation of Neutral Milk Hotel. He could not join us tonight, but he did send us an email in, and that will be read a little bit later tonight. So thanks, Justin, for that.
Yeah. So yeah, we listened to it like driving through Arkansas one time, but it was just kind of in the background, so I didn't focus on it too much. But like I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to listen to it now. I liked it a whole lot. I'm actually really shocked that this wasn't a record that I was listening to back in the day because it had elements of a lot of things I was listening to then. Like I heard a lot of Weezer and Green Day and Cake. So like all those elements were in there. Like I'm surprised I wasn't listening to this album, but yeah, I liked it a whole lot. I thought I really liked his voice and the instrumentation. Yeah, I thought it was a great album.
Yeah. I'll just say it. I couldn't possibly say enough good things about this record. This record is one of my favorite records of all time. And
Jesus, really?
oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And the thing is, I'm a late bloomer on Neutral Milk Hotel too. I didn't. I have a roommate. His name is Joey Lyons, and he's going to be a guest on this podcast at some point here coming up. He's a local musician, and he's got a fantastic perspective, and he's going to be a good person to have on. You're going to get along with him really well. But he turned me on to this band when I was living with him. I was probably 20 years old, 21 years old, maybe. And so again, I was a late bloomer because he was into this band when he was like 12, as were most other people my age. He's the same age as me. So I missed a lot of time in there, which I'm sad about because when he turned me on to this band, and I was just like, holy shit. He played one song. I think he played "Oh Comely," which is the 8th track on this. It was just because me and him were
the
both
longest
musicians
song on the album, I think.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
and
it
him
is.
were both musicians, and we used to just like sit around the house playing guitar all the time. I mean, it was just like always like we were always playing some kind of instrument, no matter what it was, to the dismay of the rest of our roommates, of which there were a couple others. But he turned me on to them, and then I went and me and him traveled to see them live in Iowa City in maybe 2014, 2015. We saw Neutral Milk Hotel live on what's his farewell tour or whatever in Iowa City. And yeah, I love these guys.
Okay. I want to read Lee Stamper because Lee Stamper has admitted to us that I believe that this is his. I mean, if it's not his favorite album of all time, it's definitely a top 5 for him. I mean, I think
it's his numero uno, isn't it?
I think it is too. I think that's what he's told me a couple different times. But Lee sent us a write up. We were going to try and call him in tonight, but he's got a lot of shit going on. So he says, "To whom it may concern, The most important background on this album is that Jeff Mangum, probably a schizophrenic man, believed he was living with a ghost that may or may not have been Anne Frank's ghost. Here are a few relevant lines from songs referencing the Holocaust. From Holland, 1945. The only girl I've ever loved was born with roses in her eyes, but then they buried her alive. One evening, 1945. With just her sister at her side, and only weeks before the guns all came and rained on everyone. And it's so sad to see the world agree that they had rather see their faces filled with flies, and when I'd want to keep white roses in their eyes.
Powerful, man. That song was the theme song for the Colbert Report. Side note.
From O Comely. I know they buried her body with others, her sister and mother and 500 families, and will she remember me 50 years later? I wish I could save her in some sort of time machine. Know all your enemies. We know who our enemies are. The whole of the song Ghost is pretty much dedicated to her ghost as well. As soon as the album was released and they gained some notoriety, Jeff Mangum vanished from the public for nearly 20 years, which added to the mystique of this album and band. One cool thing about this album is all the weird instruments used, such as singing saws. Oh, Comely is my favorite track on the album, and the vocals were done in one take, so it has a very raw and emotional feeling to it. The best part of this album is that you can listen to it 100 times and find new lines and meanings within each time. It's not as good as the Beatles.
This is not as good as the Beatles, though. Thank you, Lee Stamper, you motherfucker, for lightening the mood there.
Keeping it real. Keeping it real with is not as good as the Beatles.
So Lee said that he thought he was living in a ghost that may or not have been Anne Frank's ghost. I didn't realize that, but I did. I thought the record was about, I basically thought it was about his obsession with Anne Frank.
Yeah.
And that's it's almost like a bit of a conspiracy theory if you look into it. Like, it's not like directly referenced, but it's become a fan theory that this record is about his, love. He decided, he basically, before he made his last album, so whatever this record was, in the Airplane Over the Sea, he did a record before that. The year prior to that record, he had read Anne Frank Diary, the whole thing. And he just he was so moved by it, apparently. And it's obvious in a lot of these songs that, to me, that this whole record is just a big love letter to Anne Frank.
Yeah.
Really. There's a couple songs that are just kind of offshoots, but for the most part, that's what it is. And it's a really interesting concept. Like, how often do you get a record like that? That's like a love letter to somebody from 50 years before you were even living.
Almost never.
Yeah.
I love hating lo-fi production. It might be my favorite thing to hate.
It might be, but what did you think about this one?
I really adored it. I mean, I really, really did. And part of it was just the incredibly bizarre instrumentation. And Lee makes reference to it, right?
Like the singing saw.
The singing saw, but not just that, but there was another one, like the fuck was it called? Like the oleophones.
It's
basically a fucking bagpipe is what it is.
So that's all it is, actually. But it's like, I wrote it down, and it's like, why do you write it down if you can't find it?
I know, if you can't find it. No, I agree. And it really, like, that whole fucking bagpipe sound, it really comes out in Untitled. I want to say it pops up in Ghost and Two-Headed Boy Part 2. But I mean, realistically, as much as I love to fucking hate lo-fi recordings, I get it with this, and that's not to say that I want to hear lo-fi shitty recordings across the board, but
we had a conversation about this once, and you were like, I don't like lo-fi intentionally. You're like, but if it's like a band where they have no fucking money and they're just doing what they can, then you respect that. Remember saying that?
That's exactly what happened here. I think the producer's name was Nick Schneider. And I read a thing that said, he couldn't, I think it was Nick Lee. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. They couldn't afford basic compressors. You're right. They had released an album prior and they had some success, but they weren't rolling in the dough at this point, and
they were absolutely not. But at the same time, Jeff Mangum, like, what I read was that when the producer showed up to record this album, they were recording this, and Jeff Mangum had a sound in his head. And up until that point in time, the producer of the record thought to himself, lo-fi doesn't make sense, right? Like, he was basically in my camp why in the fuck would you want to record an album that intentionally sounds like shit? But by the time that they got done recording this album, he understood why they wanted the sound to be this way. And that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
You know, so in other words, if you're a 6-piece band with 2 guitars, a bass player, a fucking keyboard, and something else, and you're intentionally recording something like shit, go fuck yourself. I'm out.
Yeah.
Right. But the intention behind this album, because you're talking about a primary singer-songwriter who plays acoustic guitar and wants to use a singing saw and some fucking bagpipes and a drummer
And
you
a
know,
trumpet
and a
trombone.
That's right.
Trombone, yeah,
The
all
trumpet,
the
the
horns.
trombone, all of the horns, because I want to say that there was a French horn fucking mixed in there as well.
I believe so.
All of that. I understand why he was searching for that particular sound with this particular instrumentation and the feel for this record. And God damn it, I adore it.
It works
Yeah,
out big
yeah.
time.
Definitely.
Particularly with his voice. His like the tracks where it was just him and the guitar.
Yes.
God.
So good.
Oh.
Those are my favorite.
Like those, yes.
Mhm.
Which
Those
are
are my favorite too.
the very first song, King of Carrot Flowers Part 1, is one of my favorite songs
I loved it.
on the record. Honestly, probably like if I had to list my favorite 50 songs of all time, it would be on there for sure. Might be on my top 30. I don't know, but 50 for sure. You know,
What did you think about In the Airplane Over the Sea?
5
Because
stars.
that was another one.
5
Yeah.
stars.
That was
Tyler
another
Two-Headed
one
Two-headed
where
boy.
it was-
Two-headed boy was awesome.
Two-Headed Boy, 5 stars for me. Like honestly, this is probably the highest concentration of 5-star songs so far for me.
So here's what's fascinating. Two-Headed Boy by itself, I was not the biggest fan of, only because lyrically it didn't fucking make sense to me.
But with the Fool, is that what you're talking about? Is that where you're going?
I didn't understand.
Because it diverges from the Anne Frank thing. You know?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Like it really takes a hard right from all of the Anne Frank mythology that's apparent in a lot of the other stuff. However, go to Two-Headed Boy Part 2. That I fucking put 5 stars next to.
Really?
Yes. I mean, I fucking loved it. And here's the reason why I loved it. It was so disparate from the original Two-Headed Boy.
Until the end.
And the end, it was like the most beautiful reprise.
Yeah.
And even though I didn't love Two-Headed Boy, when he circled back around and brought it back to that, and I really viewed it as a reprise.
It is that.
God
yeah.
damn it. It felt like a blanket.
I
And
can't believe you didn't love Two-Headed Boy, though, like when it goes to those high notes, like dun, 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 here where we are. And it's like his microphone is obviously distorted.
Yes.
Like it's not working out at all. He's like way overdriving that
Yes.
thing, you know,
Yes.
and I love it because it just sounds so
It
perfect.
worked.
It
And-
sounds unpolished.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I did love it. For me, the only reason why Two-Headed Boy did not stand out is lyrically. Like I didn't
The lyrics are weird on that one.
I
Yeah.
didn't get the lyrics. And I'm normally not like
Maybe
that.
you know,
I
maybe you are, because you always
I'm
say
like
I'm not
like
normal.
a
like
fucking
every-
weird closeted lyric person,
I think so.
right? I mean,
Oh,
clearly.
Mike, you would tell me, right? You would, you motherfucker.
So sorry.
I did what I did love on Two-Headed
This
Boy.
is Mike coming out. I'm
Oh,
coming
God.
out as a
No,
lyricist.
He's kidding, guys. Don't listen to him. The guitar style on Two-Headed Boy, that like
loved
fast
it.
downstroke.
Yes.
He's like, you know, like I love that shit.
That wasn't and again, like for me, what really hung me up was I didn't
You didn't like the lyrics.
I
Speaking
didn't
of lyrics,
understand the story. I didn't understand what he was trying to tell me.
before we get to the inevitable "Oh Comely" discussion, let's talk
Jesus.
about
Yeah.
Communist Daughter. I'm really curious to hear interpretations of the lyrics on that one, specifically the "Semen stains the mountaintops" line, because I don't know what the fuck that means. Lee, maybe you can enlighten us.
There was
like-
so much there.
Yeah.
There was so much in Communist Daughter that didn't necessarily make sense to me.
True, but really, the "Semen stains the mountaintops" kind of stuck out to me. like for whatever reason.
The most impactful to me, King of Carrot Flowers Part 1, the opening track, King of Carrot Flowers Part 2 and 3. I fucking really adored that.
The lyrics or the music on that one?
All of it.
For me, the music on Part 2 and 3, I just love how many notes he gets out of those words. That's the thing,
Yes.
is like he takes those words for a ride. Like, I love you, Jesus Christ. Like he's like getting so many notes out of every word. You know what I mean? I love it. And he's like so melodic.
Where did you stand on In the Airplane Over the Sea?
5 stars. I mean, I love that song.
Dude, that line where he talks about throwing the ashes and that's the title track, right? Like he throws that in there, like we're gonna throw our ashes out in the airplane over the sea. Like it's just
in the airplane over the sea.
God
For me, the
damn it.
bridge on that is the best, where he's like, and how I push your fingers through your mouth to make those muscles move. That bridge is so fucking amazing to me. It just like I get chills listening to that. I really do.
I loved Holland 1945 though.
So good. That's like what I wrote about. That was frantic punk at its most melodic.
The horns though.
Elements of ska.
The horns. And that's what you're talking about, right? Like when you talk about elements of ska, like those are the horns, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Like that's what you're referring to.
That's literally what I wrote. Elements of ska with the horns. So yeah.
God damn it. Okay, let's do it.
Oh, Comely?
Yeah.
Okay. Probably the best song on the record, right?
It's my favorite.
Is Oh Comely.
Yep.
It's a close second.
I can't even
loved In the Airplane Over the Sea, but Oh Comely is like.
And I totally, like, for me, it's like In the Airplane Over the Sea, King Carrot Flowers Part 1, maybe Two-Headed Boy, but I think Oh Comely's probably my favorite. I can't describe the way that I feel when I listen to that song. That song makes you feel so uneasy. But so I wrote, it's triumphant yet foreboding at the same time.
So
like I don't even know.
Dude.
It's like the 2 chords that he combines together are like disparate, but the way that he makes them work together, like say what you want to say. Like I said, it sounds triumphant, but at the same time, it just sounds sinister. Like how do you guys feel when you listen to that song?
I put that it sounded like Irish music a little bit to me. That's what I got. I don't know. It definitely gave me the most emotional response out of all the songs on this album.
His voice, dude.
His voice is awesome.
His voice is
so good.
So ridiculous in the emotion that it's creating.
Yeah.
I loved how
the
song was so simple, right? For the most part.
It's like 3 chords. But do you know what I mean about the uneasy feeling? Like, do you guys get that feeling? Like, I can't decide whether to feel happy or
I don't feel
concerned
happy.
when I listen to that. You know what I mean? Like
the concern.
I go back and forth. Yeah.
But I enjoy that. Like that notion of like, like those are the songs that I hold on to.
This is a visceral song.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Much so.
It emits emotion, right?
Absolutely.
And those are the songs that I connect with, right? Are the ones that can draw an emotional response from me on some level. And this whole album, I was just sitting there, you know, I was in awe. I really was. The songwriting was just.
Did you have any experience with this album before?
No. I had dabbled in these guys. I had never really got into Jeff Mangum, but as I said, maybe you were in the bathroom. I'm going to get every single album I can get my hands on.
Yeah.
So.
And the lyrics on Oh Comely, I got to read a line from that just because it was so just like vivid and just like the way that he put it. And I'm looking for it right now. Just give me 1 second. It's your father made fetuses with flesh licking ladies while you and your mother were asleep in the trailer park. Jesus Christ.
That's wild, dude.
I didn't even dig into the lyrics at all with this album because I could just tell from the little bit I could hear here and there that it's going to be
that's
a big project.
Yeah, that's a rabbit.
This album is fucking nuts. Yeah.
My biggest regret. So Lee Stamper saw Neutral Milk Hotel at Bonnaroo. I want to say 2016. Maybe
were you here when I said that I saw them in Iowa City?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I believe that was pretty close to the same. I saw them on whatever was like, that must have been the same year because like it was like he said he's doing one more. This guy is notoriously like reclusive He doesn't like he
doesn't do
doesn't
shit,
enjoy
dude.
fame
No.
at all, and he doesn't play a lot of shows. So, and he played like one tour, and it was like it had to be 2015. I think it was earlier than that. It was like probably 2015, 2014. But like that had to be the year, unless
I
I
say 15.
think it was 15.
It had to have been the same year the lead singer saw
It had to have been, yeah. So that was probably
But
what
the
it was.
Instrumentation, did that blow you away? Because that's one thing that
Dude,
Lee
it was
has
a
told
pretty
me
big
time and
band
time
because
again.
they had all the horns. They did it all live. He played every song on this record live.
Yep.
He played everyone.
And they played all of the crazy instrumentation too, right?
Yeah.
So the singing saw,
They didn't,
Like,
they didn't
kids-
skimp. It was
No.
everything.
like the whole 9 yards. And that's one thing that I remember Lee telling me is like, dude, the fucking wild ass instruments that they had up there and everybody was playing them.
But it was so weird seeing him. Like honestly, he just like the way they describe him as reclusive, it came across in a live setting.
Really?
He was like very kind of restrained, like he was wearing like a sweatshirt or like a hoodie or something, and he was just he didn't like talk a lot by any means.
Yeah.
He was pretty mysterious on stage. It was kind of interesting seeing him, but it was cool. I was also really drunk. I drank like a bottle of whiskey in the car on the way to the show. So there's that.
Yeah, there was that taint. Okay, so what are you doing with this? You
want to ask
did
my opinion first?
You added it digital.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I already listened to.
Do you own the vinyl?
I don't, but that's a mistake.
I do.
Do you really?
I do.
What? What?
I
For
found
me-
it. I found it at Marv's one day, and like I was familiar enough that I was like, yeah.
You might totally disagree with me for this. This is a top 100 for me, and I wrote down I would not be upset with top 50.
Oof.
This is way fucking high for me. This is easily top 100. So easily that I don't have any qualms with saying that. Top 50, I can say that too, almost with no qualms,
What do you think? You guys agree?
I'm in agreement. I think
Top
I'm not
50
sure
or top
about
100?
no, I think top 100. I think it's way too low on the list. I think it needs to be much higher.
For me, I don't know. I'm okay where it is. Maybe if I dug into the lyrics a little bit more, then I would want to bump it up. I don't know, but I liked it a lot. Maybe not as much as you guys, but definitely should be on the list, and I'm going to buy it on vinyl. But for now, I'm
Listen,
good at where it is.
What do you think, Mike?
super worth the vinyl purchase. I don't know that I'm gonna go top 100 on this.
Yeah. That's okay. That's the situation where we might just have varying opinions. But I'm like so solidly on that side. Like, no doubt in my mind, top 100 easily. Like,
Really?
seriously, easily.
Yeah, because I mean, you're arguing top 50 in your own brain.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, I could say top 50.
Just the songwriting alone is worthy of the top 100, I think.
It's got to move up at least 150 in my book. It should be at least 200 or north of 200 in my
Yeah.
book, I guess, is probably where I would stand on it. And I mean, I'm not gonna argue with
You're
you.
not going to disagree with it? Yeah.
I'm not gonna argue with you. It ultimately it comes down to personal preference
Yeah.
on some levels. And maybe by the time that we get deeper into this list, it'll become a situation where I say, no, fuck that. This does need to be top 100.
Or maybe the opposite. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. I'm going to hold a little bit of reserve judgment, but the idea that 376,
It's a crime,
yeah,
honestly.
I'm more than willing to say that.
Yeah.
Again, I think about the snubs, you know what I mean? And this notwithstanding, like, I'm happy that it's on the list. I'm
It should
like,
be on-
because
yeah.
because let's be honest, this is a fucking album that could not have been on the list. Does that make sense?
Yeah, if they snub this, that would be, I mean, it would just be like an immediate discount
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the entire, like, it's like, what other glaring mistakes did they make?
But when I look at this and when I think about this as a standalone album, I also think about, and we've talked about the idea of influence,
Yeah.
Right? How do you not hear the Decemberists?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
This is an album that has both, in my opinion, because
A
like
ton.
this is an album that like I would put it on the top 100 for content alone before you add in
Sure.
the
The
impact
influence.
side of things. You know what I mean?
The
Curious
impact is
if Rex
dramatic.
had any thoughts on
He
this
did.
one.
Yeah. Let's read Rex's thoughts. I got it right in front of me here. So Rex says it's very limited actually. He says influenced by Yellow Submarine. You can tell by the first 2 tracks. Musically great, lyrically it's a trip on psychedelics. An impressive album. That's all he had to say.
Interesting.
So he liked it, but he didn't have a whole lot of thoughts on it.
Yeah, not a ton of thoughts on it, which I respect that, because this to me, how many times did you listen to this?
I've listened to this album probably 50 times. How many times did I listen to it this week? Probably only like 3 times, because I've listened to it so many times before. You know?
So had you had this much exposure to it before, Ben?
No, I listened to it, took some notes, and then sat here today and listened to it again. So I was like, yeah.
How
Love
about
it.
you?
I listened to all these records 3 times.
You did all of them 3 times?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites. I've listened to it a bunch.
So I had listened to this album probably 10 times before going into this week. And this was an album that's starting on Tuesday at work. I just put it on repeat.
Yeah.
Because it's not a super long album.
Like what, 40 minutes or something like that?
Yeah. And it's not one that you necessarily have to listen to in order. But I read a review of this album that talked about how it became kind of a cult favorite amongst people. And
yeah, it was like a slow burn. You know?
Really, really slow burn, because basically as soon as this album was released, Jeff Magnum said, fuck this, I don't want to do this anymore.
As soon as he found any success, he was like, I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
Stay out of my business. And he fucking went off on his own.
He totally retreated. And I read a quote, and the more that I listened to this album, I understood the quote. And the quote was that people became attached to this album from the standpoint of they fell in love with it for reasons that were personal. And even if nobody else loved this album, they would love it. And that really kind of stuck with me in a weird way, because the more that I listened to the record, the more I thought, yeah, I don't give a fuck if anybody likes this album. I really like this.
Yeah, it's just a personal thing.
And that's like, and that speaks to that idea of how cultish the album became. Because even if you can't describe to somebody why you love this album so much, you can still love it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
And I really attached myself to that. And I put it on repeat, and I found myself getting gravitated towards In the Airplane Over the Sea, The King of Carrots, especially The King of Carrots Part 1.
Dude,
and then,
so good.
And then Oh Comely. And Oh Comely is just so fucking haunting in the way that
That's a good way to put it. That's what I'm saying. Is like
it earworms into your brain.
Triumphant yet foreboding. You know what I mean?
So haunting, you know.
King of Carrot Flowers is one that I play, that I perform sometimes when I play solo.
Do you really?
The part 1. Yeah.
You fucker.
Yeah.
Do you remember Amy Poehler? What was the name of that show? Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec, yeah.
April, one of the characters in there, loved this band, right?
Yeah.
And at the very, like towards the end of the show, they had this big concert, and Andy or whatever was going to do this.
Mouse Rat.
Mouse Rat's
probably on the list.
So they were trying to find this elusive artist that April loved, and I'm pretty sure that
It was based on Jeff Mangum.
was supposed to be Jeff Mangum.
I can see that.
And it may have even been him. I wouldn't know enough then to say it was, but I know that it was intended to be, you know, like we're searching for Jeff Mangum because we want him to come do this show, and the guy did it. So
that's amazing.
That's awesome.
Perfect.
Well, we should wrap it up. We should wrap it up, but
we should.
But
we just worked through 25.
Are we doing it right now?
Or we did just work through 25.
Oh, we did. Okay. All right. Let's do it. What was your are we gonna do each best of the 5, or are we just gonna do best overall?
You start.
of best of 25.
You start.
All right. Well, for today, let's just do best of the top 25.
Okay.
And it's this. 100%. No doubt in my mind. It's this one.
I'm just scanning through. I'm getting my thoughts together. So if we're just talking about the last 25 albums, in my mind, the best album of the last 25 that we've seen is going to be probably In Rainbows by Radiohead.
Yep. It was for me. It was between this and Rush,
And
but I
Neutral
gotta
Milk-
go with this.
Yeah, and Neutral Milk Hotel is, man, it's a really, really,
Yeah.
that's a super tough argument. And it's crazy because I just got done saying that Neutral Milk Hotel is one that I could understand being in the top 200. And I don't think that I said anything dramatically different. I guess somebody can fucking fact check me because it's recorded what I thought about
Probably your
Radiohead.
sister.
Yeah, Heather will probably fucking go back and do that. But if I was going to pick one album out of the last 25 as my favorite, that doesn't mean it's the best, but my favorite is probably going to be In Rainbows by Radiohead.
I get that. That's a very valid pick.
Honorable mentions, Currents by Tame Impala. Fucking love that record.
Rocket to Russia by Ramones.
Moving Pictures. Because I really like, I re-fell in love with Moving Pictures this week in a big, big way.
Surfer Rosa, Pixies.
Yeah, the Pixies was
Oh,
huge.
and I got it. Oh, never mind. That wasn't this 25. No, it was. Todd Rundgren, Something Anything.
Fuck yes, Something Anything was this top 25. And that was great too.
Honorable mention in the opposite direction, as in, fuck this album. Smile, Brian Wilson.
Yeah, fuck off. Fuck off.
Fuck you, Brian Wilson.
Sorry, Brian. You're not quite as bad as Phil Spector, but you're fucking trying. I mean, you're really trying for
You're
this.
really, really
for the
gunning
Phil
for that
Spector
position.
sound. Yeah. All right.
Should
So
we preview next week?
next week, the next 5 at 375, we're going to be talking about the album from 1994. Woo! I can't wait to talk about it. Dookie from Green Day.
Fuck yeah. 374 is Robert Johnson, king of the Delta Blues singers.
Hot damn. 373. Another Smoke Show from 1969. Hot Buttered Soul from Isaac Hayes.
372 is Big Brother and the Holding Company. Cheap Thrills.
That's a fucking
with
smoke
Janis
show
Joplin.
right there,
I think
dude.
that has what song does that have on it? Piece of My Heart. I think that has a Piece of My Heart on it.
It does have Piece of My Heart on it.
Yeah.
It also has what is it? Fucking All Against One Against Me. What the fuck's the name of that song?
I don't know if that,
God damn it.
We'll figure it out.
It's wonderful. And the last thing we're going to be talking about next week is 371.
Another one of these, huh?
The anthology of the Temptations.
We like the Temptations though, so maybe we'll let it slide. We'll see. Maybe not.
It's a
Papa was a Rolling Stone.
Papa may have been a Rolling Stone, but that Rolling Stone,
Could or could not have been. Yeah.
he may not have required 3 albums.
Maybe not. Yeah. I don't know
It's
how
a
long that
3
one
album set.
is. Have you looked into that?
Dude, I'm
It's
too
like
scared.
9 hours long
I'm
or
too
something.
scared.
Yeah.
All
All right, guys.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Ben Williams.
Thanks, April
Leonard.
Pleasure
Yeah.
to be
Thanks
here.
for
I
having
did put a
us.
weird pause before the last name. Yeah. Thanks, guys. I'm sure
you.
you both will return at some point.
Uh-huh.
Undoubtedly. Indubitably.
Yes.
We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Cheers.
This list sucks. This list sucks.
Sing it.
This list sucks. This list sucks. It sucks.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.